is going to be able to make that happen because you're choosing from the same plays. So, like, where can Florida's quick game improve? I actually haven't thought about this. I think it's an interesting conversation because I look at it and think, well, they're not going to be in 4 or 5 wide a ton, and a lot of the receivers aren't necessarily going to be compressed close to the line of scrimmage. You don't. I don't think they have the tight end this year to really be that involved.
I agree, but they're trying to make him into that. That's why I'm having a hard time with it.
Yeah. This is
here's my other thing too. Like, I'm not saying that Billy should give up play calling in the red zone or on third down. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is having a different identity on those down and distances makes you more difficult to prepare for. And if you look at, and I've studied a lot of red zone the last couple days, I look at the teams that operate best in the red zone. Guess what they do really well? RPOs. It's all RPO, man. You get to like the 25-yard line, it's like RPO and condensed formation. Like Ole Miss, for example, when they get into the red zone, it's all condensed formation. When it's condensed formation, guys, that means like guys are close to the line of scrimmage. Like they change their identity. You know what I mean? They still run RPO. They run a lot of RPO in the field too, but they change their identity. I think that's helpful. Not that you change play callers. I'm just saying you change your identity. And whatever it takes for you to get to that point, if that is changing play callers, by all means. But whatever it takes for you to get to that point where it's like, all right, hey, guess what? They're at the 25-yard line now. We need to play a different defense. Let's install a different defense now because the offense that we're facing is now different than the one we faced between the 20s. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm getting at. And
I get that part of it.
Made me think, like, man, I just wonder, like, I've been critical of that in the past. Like, you are who you are, you do what you do. But now that I'm, like, starting to think about it, I'm like, man, I don't know. I think it's a philosophical conversation. I'm not sure there is a right answer. I feel like the teams that are moving at best in the red zone are completely different in the red zone than they are in the field.
No, and I get that. I see that. And I think a lot of it is just that offense by design. Their red zone offense should be, as you stated, being able to operate well. Running backs, I mean, they got great backs. They should be able to open up holes, and that should be the bulk of it. You give them a bootleg every now and then, and maybe, a tight end waggle, quick throw off of that because – I mean, screens close to the goal line annoy me, but some teams try to live on those and like to run those. But let's take that into this game this weekend.
Yeah.
And I think right now LSU has more concerns than people are allowing to be discussed. I understand the Clemson win was big. Didn't look super impressive against La Tech, which, by the way, linebacker 10 for La Tech. If I'm a Division I coach, I'm talking to that kid right now. He's probably 205, super light, but goodness, the kid can run, and he is not afraid to attack. He's almost – if you could put like 10, 15 pounds on him, he'd be a perfect linebacker in today's football. But I'd actually – I meant to go back and look at that because I watched that game on the plane last night. Do you know who their defensive coordinator is?
At La
Tech? Yeah, I don't know, honestly.
Let's take a look. It's Sonny Cumbie, so probably well, they had I watched them a little bit actually a couple weeks ago, and I like what they do defensively. Luke Olson. I like what they do defensively because that David Blay guy, for example, that's now at Miami, like, whew, boy.
I'm telling you, they had a DN too that was causing problems. They had, I have never seen I don't know what to call it. I'm going to call it a crawl technique on the goal line where D tackles just basically eat dirt and they just try to shoot through the gap. I think it was number 90. He shoots through the B gap and then gets up and crawls and actually makes a play on a running back for LSU down near the goal line. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that. And the play was not designed to go right at the play was not designed to go right at him. It was like a gap over. I'm like, okay. They play hard. I respected the way they played. I watched that game last night a little bit more because I wanted to kind of get an idea of the LSU offensive line situation if their center's still going to be out for this week. So it's I just appreciate the way they play. Do not have a definitive update. No, questionable is last that I saw.
Same.
So, and I don't think it's a massive deal. I think it hurts depth. And I think with Caleb Banks coming back, that's one reason that you're probably a little bit more aware of it and you're a little hypersensitive of it. But I'll tell you this: this game I think is going to be closer than people believe. I think people have thrown Florida in the trash a little early, and I think people have propped LSU up a little bit too far. We've talked about John Mateer, Greg, and some of the throws that he's made this year. Not, I don't know if we should celebrate these throws or not, but Garrett Nussmeier has made 3 or 4 throws this year that have been unbelievable. The problem is they didn't go for touchdowns. They were with defenders in his face and immediate pressure coming at him, and he had to avoid that pressure and essentially throw the ball well before the receiver was at that spot, and he put it right on the money. The problem is he shouldn't have to be making throws like that, and he's having to make them often. So that's my concern for this LSU offense. And not that Florida has an elite defense that's automatically going to be able to shut it down, specifically on the back end. But I do believe that Florida has a chance because of the styles that these two teams play. And you know, like I do, we talked about this yesterday, that Florida zone scheme, I mean, that's what it's designed for defenses like this. It's designed to work everything out. And when you get guys that pinch, or you get guys that slant, or you get guys that loop, or you get guys that run through, it's designed to pick that up. If they can have success just getting a hat on a hat, Florida's going to have a chance to move the ball in this game against LSU.
I think they can move the ball. I think just the biggest problem with Florida right now is DJ Lagway. The way people talk about him is just a little too premature. I'm not saying he's a really talented kid, but I think, I don't remember if it was Jordan, but like somebody's like, oh, he's the best quarterback in the country. It's like, dude, slow your roll, man. Like, I don't know. He misses a lot of throws. And you could see the rust in last week's performance of having missed as much time as he did. Like, just simple throws to the tight end that just drive it. And he's throwing fadeaway jumpers, and he's just not there yet. Like, I think we lose sight of the fact that he'll be starting just his 9th game tomorrow. Tomorrow is his first career college road start. He's still a young player, and I love the upside. I love the potential. At any one given moment, he gets hot, and just look out. It's all she wrote. But he's still very much a work in progress as a prospect. And I don't know if Florida can win the game with him playing the way he played last week. There's no chance. He has to play better. He has to be more accurate. And when the plays are there to be made downfield, he's got to hit them. And if he does, guess what? It's a game. If he misses them, then guess what? They could get run out of the gym. That's just the way it goes. They put a lot on his shoulders on the deep ball.
He had a couple big misses last week. One of the balls early up the sideline where receiver's wide open, overthrows him. Then, of course, the one we talked about it on the show this week, throwing it kind of across his body, trying to make a play down the field, a little bit overthrown. 2 defenders actually with a chance to make a play. It's intercepted. You just can't make that throw there. There wasn't anything. There was no space. There was no opportunity really to make that play. And like you said, that comes down to decision making at that point, and then you start to get concerned about, okay, that's not something that is usually coached out very quickly or that goes away in a speedy manner. So I think it's
just. Did you see the throws to the tight ends in the red zone? Like, there were 2 of them. Like, one was to the left-hand side, one was from left to right, throwing it back, kind of like a shallow cross.
The one to the left, I honestly don't know who it was to. I don't know which receiver it was. Was it to the receiver in the back of the end zone underthrown, or was it to the tight end overthrown? I don't know which guy he was trying to throw it to.
Oh, yeah. I think it was to the tight end overthrown. Because there's no way on earth you're throwing to the receiver if the tight end's that open. And you miss him. Like, you can't miss that throw. Like, this guy's supposed to be a top 5 pick. Like, let's slow our roll a bit. Like, come on, man. Like, he's still early. He still has, I think, from a career passer standpoint, he's, I think, over the last 2 years, Lagway is like a 60% passer, maybe. And that's, look, he's just not as accurate as I think people want to make him out to be. It doesn't mean it's not in there. It just means he can't miss layups. If you're going to be a star, and what did we say forever with Milton? Like, oh my gosh, the talent's outrageous. But as far as his total QBR in his career, he is 56.8. That's 76th in college football in the last 2 years. 76th. And then as far as completion percentage, and look, I know he's a freshman. Like, I'm good with that. But just the way we talk about him is just crazy. His completion percentage, career completion percentage, 63%. That's 62nd in college football. Now his yards per attempt is high, which is nice, but he's just got to be a little better. 16-10 career touchdown interception ratio. Like, I mean, there's just areas of his game he can clean up a lot, and I think part of the reason why his development has been a little stagnant is because he hasn't been able to go through spring and summer and fall camp and things like that. Like, he's missed time, and that's hard to develop when you don't practice.
What did you say Lagway's completion percentage was?
63%.
What do you think? And that's subpar, right?
Yes.
What do you think
today's
Garrett
day and age in modern
career
offense?
completion? What do you think Garrett Nussmeier's career completion percentage is?
I have no idea.
63.2.
64. I got him at 64.7, but but still, point taken.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of it's his fault. I mean, I think his offense is one-dimensional, and I don't think he's getting good protection right now. I thought he got great protection last year, but there have been other times when he hadn't gotten great protection, so that's not all on him, but we'll see. That's got a chance to be a fun game for a lot of different reasons. We're going to keep talking about that one. We're going to talk about Wisconsin. I'm glad you brought up quarterbacks and rankings of quarterbacks and where quarterbacks are, because we had a very interesting comment made on the show yesterday, GMAC, that I want you to hear, and I just want you to respond to and kind of see where you are on it and maybe what you think about it. It was from a guest that we had on the show, and I want to get your thoughts. Before we do that, tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Fu and his guys have done an amazing job for a long time, making sure that your home is taken care of the same way he would want his own home taken care of. But the one I've really enjoyed is just how much he has continued to stock up his inventory. He now has over 50,000 square feet of premium Core-Tech flooring in stock. Every single plank comes with a 20 mil wear layer. It's built to last, priced to move. Nobody has the Core-Tech that Fu has, and because of how much he has, he's able to give you guys 20 to 40% off that Core-Tech flooring. It's a deal that you just won't find anywhere else. That's why you got to take advantage of it. So think about making some changes to your floors. Remember Shannara Flooring. And when you want Core-Tech, call who? Call Fu at Shannara Flooring, 205-518-6423. Or go online at fuandyou.com.
All right, an update on the Wisconsin quarterback situation. And we talk quarterback rankings this year in college football next, right here on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Louis DeArmond tweets in. Oh, no, it happened again. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties with the headset.
I was like, oh no, this is a big build-up. Should I be doing a drum roll?
Yeah. Louis DeArmond's tweeting in, wants to know where Greg is. Greg's in Baton Rouge, and he wants to know who they're getting at 11 a.m. I'm assuming that means Alabama. I don't know who's on the call for that one. Is that Dusty and those guys, G-Mac?
No, that is Joe the Tess Effect Tessator. And Jesse, the Bachelor Palmer.
There you go. All right, so you guys will have that one for Alabama, Wisconsin. Speaking of Wisconsin, quarterback situation looking grim for the Badgers. Billy Edwards, unlikely to play for Wisconsin. We discussed this just a little bit yesterday and kind of what this is going to do and what this is going to mean. We didn't get a chance to hear you about it, G-Mac. But when you think about what this could mean, what this could do with O'Neal getting the start at quarterback, what is it? How does it change the Wisconsin offense and what Bama's going to get and what Bama's going to have to do?
Honestly, I don't feel like it's the end of the world. I think Billy Edwards is a fine player. I like him. I think he plays good football. But I don't think that he is, some irreplaceable piece. I think they're going to be just as capable with O'Neal under center as they are going to be with Billy Edwards. I don't think O'Neal is quite the runner that Edwards is. Going back and watching him, he's a decent thrower. Like, he's played and has thrown for over 2,100 yards in his career. He's been around. It's not like he's going to be completely shell-shocked. It's not like he's some true freshman like last year. Remember last year, Van Dyke goes out, and all of a sudden the backup can't play dead in a Western. This guy is actually seen live action before and has been a starter at a proud program like San Diego State. So to me, I would prefer to have Billy Edwards. I think Billy Edwards has a higher ceiling. And in this game, if you're Wisconsin, you'd probably like to have that ceiling. But I don't think they're going to have a guy out there that's incapable. To me, the bigger injury, Cole, is the center, Jake Renfro. Because that's the one that matters a whole heck of a lot more to me than the quarterback. If Billy Edwards is a 7 out of 10 and Danny O'Neal's a 6 out of 10, fine. But their center Renfro is a legitimate difference-making player. And the backup, not good from what I witnessed last week. So that, to me, I think might be a bigger injury than the quarterback situation if, for whatever reason, Renfro can't go.
Now, speaking of quarterbacks and just kind of people's thoughts on quarterbacks around college football this year, we had Yogi Roth on the show yesterday, and we were discussing different teams across the Big Ten, asking him about those teams, and Oregon came up. I want you to hear what he said about Dante Moore and then get your follow-up, your thoughts on it.
I think Dante Moore is the best quarterback in the country, and I get he's only started 2 games. But if you study him and you watch him, I think it's hard-pressed to not.
Okay, hold on one second. I got to go back to something that we just said there. You're saying you truly believe Dante Moore deserves to be in the conversation as best quarterback in America?
I sure do.
Okay. I watched this last one. He looked good.
Best quarterback in America, G-Mac?
That is Yogi Roth? Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Correct. Yes, Yogi Roth.
All right. So nothing about that is surprising. But that's fine. I think he so far has looked really good. Show me how he plays when he gets hit. When he's not playing routes on air and when he's not, chilling back there in the backfield, then you can make that claim. If you tell me he's the best quarterback in the country when he's yet to feel the pressure of a real pass rush, because that's when the good ones separate themselves. Like, you want to tell me, who's really good in shorts and shoulder pads? You know who lit up teams for a really long time? Joe Milton and Nico Iamaleava. Like, man, they looked good against directional U. And I'm not saying Oklahoma State is directional U, but they're not far off based on what I saw last week. So I can't go that far yet. I think that's absurd, especially for a guy that's played and coached the position. have that conversation when they play a team with the pulse. And by the way, that might not be until Penn State. And then after that one, I don't even know who else. Like, name a great defense that he's going to face in the next week or two before he gets Penn State.
Yeah, there's not going to be a ton. There's not going to be many. I get it. But it's just I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Well,
it caught me off guard when he said it yesterday, for sure.
Like, it's ridiculous. Like, okay, pump the brakes. Let's just watch how he does against real competition. Like, real competition. They've looked fantastic. Oregon now, if I were to put my top 25 out, they'd be number 2 behind Ohio State. I think they've looked really good. And he's a big reason why. But to be the number 2 quarterback in the country, or number 1 quarterback in the country, come on, man. I'm not saying his tape hasn't looked great so far. Totally agree with all of that. But when he's facing Ohio State and he's getting his teeth kicked in, is he still as accurate as he has been so far in routes on air? I don't know. We'll find out.
Probably not. You don't need to go far to find incredible health care. You can do it at Andrews Sports Medicine. There's a reason Auburn Athletics hand-selected Andrews Sports Medicine, Dr. Benton Emblem, and Dr. Charles Pitts to serve as their team physicians. They provide the highest quality sports medicine care in an effort to keep the Tiger student-athletes safe, healthy, and competing at the highest level. If Andrews Sports Medicine is the choice for Auburn Athletics, there's no doubt they should be your family's number 1 choice for sports medicine and orthopedic care. Andrews Sports Medicine has 7 locations across central Alabama, from Birmingham, Coleman, Gardendale, Hoover, Pelham, and Trussville. They offer same-day, next-day appointments for acute sports injuries. Visit andrewsportsmedicine.com today to begin your journey of achieving victory over injury. Get to a break, come back, talk to Stanford Steve right here next on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. G-Mac, let's go to Stanford Steve on the Higginbotham hotline.
Yeah, Stanford Steve brought to us every single week, brought to by our friends at Atlas Senior Living. Do an amazing job. 40 communities now, all throughout the Southeast: Texas, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Florida. Brand new additions to the family are 4 new communities in the Washington, D.C. area. So Steve can go ahead and move on in. And he, of course, is a resident there of the D.C. area. Want to give a shout out to the public winner from the Atlas Pick'em Pool last week, Alexis Atkins, and the resident winner, Miss Julie Harper from St. Pete. Anyone that wants to join the public Pick'em contest can go to atlasseniorliving.com. That's ATLAS seniorliving.com. Click on the football banner and select your picks. Each week you get a chance to win a $150 Amazon gift card. Steve, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Nothing much, boys. Greg, you better be going to Supper Club tonight. If you need a reservation, let me know. It's the best place in the SEC for a dinner.
No, we are not going there.
Come on.
No. Grow up.
You're missing out.
Well, I mean, if you want to hook it up with a reservation, I will oblige. Because as of right now, we're probably hitting Tsunami Sushi, which is right across the street. Easy spot.
Yeah.
Convenience.
Come on. You're taking a check down there and not going for the deep ball. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fine. If there's anything we've learned from the last couple weeks is that every quarterback in college football is now checked down Charlie, so I'm just following suit. I'm perfectly fine with that. Those that have at least tried things down the field haven't hit them. So we are basically the Georgia offense when it comes to dinner reservations on the weekend. That's what it is. Let's start there. You guys are there. I think everybody – Georgia to me feels like you're getting them at the best possible price ever if you want to make a play in back road chalk. But I haven't seen anything to suggest us actually wanting – get behind them. I don't think they look very good these last couple of weeks. Like, how should we be evaluating that game? Georgia currently 3.5, 4-point favorite.
Yeah, you watch them, Greg. I totally get it. I thought Chase Daniel pointed out last week a couple times where Gunnar Stockton had throws and he just didn't let it rip. I don't know if he doesn't trust it himself or whatever. And you also watch them offensively, and it's super, super vanilla. I mean, I don't know how many times they ran that toss where they're pulling the guard, and they were very good at it. And then you have the weather delay, but everybody's going to say that if they didn't watch it. But, like, what was alarming was that 4th down, 4 downs to go from the 1-yard line before the end of the half, and they don't score. It feels like we haven't seen their best-case scenario for an offensive line in 2 years. And this also feels like going into the Texas game last year where they were up back against the wall. What are you going to do on the road? And that's where I still trust Kirby and his staff, because when I go back and watch Tennessee, like I watched that Syracuse game, and then you watch Syracuse move the ball better against Tennessee than they did against UConn. It feels like both teams have a lot to prove, and we're going to learn a hell of a lot more about them. I think it's a dead under game. I think field goals and turnovers are obviously enormous, as they are in every game. But this, with the momentum that Neyland can provide, if Georgia stays ahead of the chains, doesn't turn it over, I like their defense better. So I do lean Georgia, but I really like the under in this one.
What do you point to in that game that will be the deciding factor? I think there's one area that everybody automatically goes, and it's kind of glaring, but that's actually not what I think ends up being the difference. What would you point to?
I think it's Georgia staying ahead of the chain. I mean, obviously we know how Gunnar could use his legs and keep the ball in Georgia's hands, which obviously you want to do on the road and keep Tennessee's offense. But all in all, I really think it's Tennessee's offensive line against Georgia's defense and what Aguilar is going to do. I mean, they are out of their minds at taking shots in comparison of what Joey's done compared to Nico. I get it. They're sky high. They've lost 8 in a row to Georgia, all by 14 or more points. So Tennessee is like this. You talked to people last night. This is their feel as good as they ever have going against Georgia. But can they? I mean, 52, 44, 33, 3 for Georgia. They're still going to line up Saturday, and I still need to see Tennessee be able to contain those guys. I don't think they can. I just think Georgia's that good defensively. So that the matchup is the Tennessee offensive line against that Georgia front, Cole.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Another one that is kind of trendy, but I like it. You know what I mean? Is Georgia Tech and Clemson. Georgia Tech currently, I believe it's like a 3.5, 2.5 point dog at home. Feels so trendy. Like if you're ever going to take Clemson, now would be the time. But I don't think there's anything I've seen from them that makes me feel confident in what I might get from them on Saturday mid-morning.
Yeah, Thamel had that Haynes King was full go on Tuesday, but like I don't even know what teams do practice-wise anymore, guys. It's so puzzling to me. I was going to go to Tennessee practice yesterday, and Thursday is their walkthrough day. I was like, what? Like that was usually, special cat, 2 minutes, game situation stuff. So, if he's full go on Tuesday, I don't know what that was. And also, is he really 100%? Because I think you need him 100 with how much they want to do quarterback run. And that's why I look at Clemson. Like, if there's anything that favors in this matchup, is them against the run game. They still have the guys up front. I thought Dabo was alarming and saying like, who's played to the level that you need, or come out and made a statement so far on your team. And the only guy he said was Tom Allen, the defensive coordinator. So that tells you where Dabo stands with his personnel. But yeah, like the Clemson offense, it's kind of like Florida, where they just struggle consistently to stay ahead of the chains and use the run game. I think Clemson's at 79 yards a game, which is 234th in the country. Like you're not a top 15 team. If those are your stats and you have what you had coming back, I think all of us thought the world of them coming into the season. I had them number 1, and now I don't even have them in my top 15. So it's kind of a last stand for Clemson. You look at road games at Louisville, down the road that are going to be challenging. They have to get this one, or I kind of think it's a lost season already. 3 weeks in with 2 losses, and you were, as I said, I had them number 1. So you see it's down to 2.5, and it opened up on a touchdown. So everyone feels like they're off the Clemson bandwagon. I still lean that they could pull this one out just because of their personnel on the defensive front.
We're going to obviously talk Florida LSU, and Greg and I kind of opened the show talking about it, different aspects of it. I think people have kind of thrown Florida in the trash a little bit too early, and I think people might be riding a little too high on LSU, which means we could get a great game. Where are you on just kind of stylistically what these two teams have shown this year, the matchup being when they face off tomorrow?
It's kind of similar, Cole. I think with the struggles, I thought they were really timely with their run game against Clemson, and that really helped them get out of some situations when they were trailing. They did it, and obviously took the lead, and then they pull it out by a score. With Florida, it feels like they need the run game to do everything in the pass game. With how inaccurate DJ has been, he needs play action to have open guys, and then when he's had those, he's missed them. So I thought Florida's offensive line would be way better. You go back to last week, and I don't want to take anything away from South Florida, but mistake after mistake after mistake by Florida really cost. There was one drive, they scored 3 touchdowns. They all got called back because of penalties. And then they settled for a field goal, and then, you can't tackle on the last drive. Both teams have to minimize mistakes. And we talk about Lagway, this is his first true road start in the SEC. With how many starts he's had and the great run they had last year, you're up against it in what I think is the toughest environment. So I do think it's a 1-score game. I think it's too many points. It's still 7.5. But I think LSU wins a close game there.
It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere, as it always is. No doubt about it. Is there one that just really stands out to you? Like the one I really like, and I hate it because I like it, is the road chalk with Pitt, West Virginia. West Virginia loses their top running back and their top wide receiver in a span of about 4 plays. Since then, they can't do anything, and that's against Ohio. Now they have to go against a Pitt defense that will completely sell out against the run, and Marchial's weapons on the outside are a big question mark. I love Rich Rod, and I love taking the home team in a rivalry game like this, but I don't see how West Virginia scores. So how can you possibly How can you possibly back West Virginia there in the backyard brawl?
I don't see it. Rich Rod's great, but he needs his pieces for his offense. We've seen him at places, Michigan, where he didn't have the right pieces and they just couldn't do it. And then he felt like he had, a couple guys and they lose their best skill guys. As you pointed out, I think Narduzzi's as good as there is when you want to talk about being defensive up front, run game, the whole nine. And now he has personnel. Last year they just didn't have it. The one that sticks out to me, I've watched them a couple times. They've played nobody, but man, they look as good as anyone offensively, and that's USC. I hate giving double digits on the road, but this team's bona fide, legit. Mayava has been accurate. Their receivers are as good as anyone in the country, and their defense, with Gentry healthy, they move them all around. They got some transfers in there. Again, the competition has been great, but Purdue, I still am not there. I love Barry Odom. They've scored way more than I thought, and it's just funny. I was looking at it. This is the world we are in now, as far as transfers, coaches. Like Mayava was Barry Odom's quarterback at UNLV, and now they're playing against each other at different schools. So I'm really interested to see what USC looks like on the road. I think they've been super impressive. I think they're number one in the country in points per game, over 60 right now. So I think they'll score plenty at Purdue.
Steve, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on this one as far as the line or the points or anything. Maybe total is of interest, but is 23.5 too much for Oklahoma going on the road to Temple? And I get it. Most people are going to say, come on, look what they've done. John Mateer's out of his mind. Temple is 2-0. And this Evan Simon kid, man, like 77%, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions on the year. He's pitching it around. Looks pretty good. I know this is a different defense than what he's seen so far, but is that too many points for Oklahoma on the road in an early kick?
Yeah, there's a lot of them, Cole. It's kind of dicey, and that's where I look at who can I trust offensively. I just mentioned USC. I feel like I can with them. Oklahoma, I feel like I can. Oregon's another one going on, giving 4 touchdowns. But with Oklahoma, I texted you a little bit. I think they got something there with the tackles. I know it's not pretty, but when I watch everyone else in the country, pass protection's been an issue everywhere. And it's not, you're going to play in an NFL stadium. There's not going to be a lot of fans there. I really feel like Mateer is that dialed in where you could trust them offensively on the road. And I think their defense is fantastic. The way they move around, and, you watch these teams, it's like, all right, this guy's on there first, second, third down. Oklahoma rotates guys like crazy. And I think that really, really helps them as far as freshness. Temple's, I love that they hired Keeler. He's a guy that's had super success in the Northeast, and now he's back in Philly. Matt Rule, showed that you could win there. But I still think Oklahoma's superior, even in a look-ahead spot. With Auburn coming in, I trust Oklahoma offensively.
Yeah, I think they're the real deal. I'm a believer, and I'm not saying they can't have a flat spot. A lot of teams can, always possible, but I think they're the real deal. Very few teams have altered my impression of them more in the first couple weeks of the season than Oklahoma. Is there one team that we're just universally sleeping on across the board? Anyone that, no one needs to really watch them? SC is one I think is a great option. Are there any others like that where it's like, man, watch this team. They're the real deal.
I'm super pumped for Cole's game. I think Vanderbilt is, I'm not saying they're going to go to the playoff, but when you look at them, and I wanted to do this thing on College Game Day where we talked about, all right, who's better than they were last year? And people want to throw Oregon into that conversation. I'm not there yet. I think USC is one of those teams. I think Vanderbilt is. I just look at what they returned and what they've looked like. And, it comes down to a decision by Pride on a 4th and a foot on his own 38, I think. And he punts it, and then Vandy takes the ball, and they steamroll ahead. But I get it. The crowd noise is great at Willie B, and that team has plenty to prove. But when you look at Vandy and what you want with a quarterback that could read stuff as well as he does in the run game, and you could keep Lenore Sellers off the field, I think Vandy is super, super dangerous tomorrow night.
The first game since the headsets were implemented that I've looked at and said, communication might be greatly disrupted because of what Vanderbilt does in between plays. There are not many teams that have to deal with this kind of crowd noise in this kind of environment that go as slow as they do. Let's just be real. Or are not used to doing things without a huddle. Like they are. I mean, we talked to Tim Beck yesterday. He made no bones about it. He's like, listen, we don't go fast. He's like, we're a ball control offense, and like they're going to take their time. Now, it gives them more time to sort it out, but also it also gives. I mean, you've been there. It gives that crowd more time to get going. And so I just watching the communication is going to be really intriguing. Of them trying to go slow, get out of the huddle, maybe need to change some things. Also, keep in mind, I mean, they're kind of like he's kind of Gulf Coast offenses a little bit, like a little ish of we're going to shift, we're going to motion, we're going to trade.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to put people different places. There's all of that. How problematic will that be for Vandy? Because a lot of times we make a big deal out of this, and it's like, well, these teams go on the clap and they can go fast, and it's like it doesn't matter that much anyway. This is one that actually could make a huge difference in.
Yeah, no doubt. But then, that's what I said. You look at your personnel and what they have. I love what they have up front, and the guy that's calling the shots. He's a guy that's been everywhere. This is at the top of the list. His toughest places to play, but he knows what he needs to have in place right before the plays go. He's played so much football. So when you go into it, I trust that with Vandy. You better have double IFBs in, Cole, because we need you dialed in, and we need you hearing and not distracted by the crowd noise. I need you with double IFBs on Saturday night.
Yeah, Darude's not going to be there, so I'll be okay. I'm not in there, and the fair's not in town, so Greg doesn't have to worry about me grabbing a donut burger in the fourth quarter. So we'll be okay. I think I'll be locked in. Right. I think I'll be dialed in. I mean, I'm with you. You think about just Clayton's going to throw something at him that he hasn't really seen or is not necessarily prepared for. You look at that D-line being a little bit lighter than it was a year ago, and you're right. I think it's a really cool question. Who right now do we believe is definitively better than last year? Because this offensive line, it's the biggest, most physical, athletic Vanderbilt line I've ever seen. Now, having said that, it ain't pretty at all. Like, we're not putting this on at the coach's clinic to say, watch the footwork, look at him shoot his hands, watch the great technique and fundamentals here, because they're all over the place. And Greg hasn't heard me say this yet. But, Greg, it reminds me of our Fresno State offensive lines like 3-4 years ago that we used to watch. Like, these dudes are club bouncers. They're not technicians. And Vandy usually has these technicians that can, they can sift and they can position you and they take great pass sets, but then they get run over. These dudes are trying to run you over. Now, the face mask is going to have grass in it because they're going to whiff 3-4 times a game. I mean, it's happening. They're going to go down. But defensively, this Fontenette kid that they added, big time. Like, he adds a little different dimension. They're different up front on that offensive line. They have another back that they can now go they're going to go a ton of two-back with Cedric Alexander so he can move and do different things. This is not like game plan. They've been doing this. So I'm with you. And it was hilarious how we tried to talk to people about Vandy at media. They're Vanderbilt. Now, I'm like, hold on. They upgraded in almost every problem area that they had. And here's what it comes down to. Like, Greg hasn't heard me say this yet either, Steve. There's going to be, and there is, every game, there's 3 or 4 expletive plays from Diego Pavia. Is that is that the touchdown against Alabama, or is that the interception against Texas? I mean, you saw the option where he's running out flat against Virginia Tech, and it's like he's not even looking. He pulls a Magic Johnson out to the left, and it's like, careful, man. And then he does the back foot fadeaway deep throw. Without the penalty, it's a pick. And like, if those go Vanderbilt's way, I think they win the game. If they go South Carolina's way, I think South Carolina wins the game.
I agree. When I watch him, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, it's throwing off the back foot. It reminds me of Bo Nix at Auburn. Like, there's so many of those plays. Like, what's the yes or no? And that's what it comes down to, because it's always in a critical situation too.
I don't know. I think Vandy. I keep going back and forth. The more I watch South Carolina, the more I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yep.
Offensive line concerns me. There's some challenges offensively. Just in general, I think Norris is a great player. But beyond him, I think they got some warts. But
hey, quickly, Steve,
we'll
Colgate at Syracuse, you taking the over 66.5?
Yes.
Syracuse.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Colgate, watch out.
They may have dead legs. I don't know. We'll see.
Could happen. Could happen. Steve, you're always brought to us by our friends at Atlas Senior Living, ATLAS, seniorliving.com. Click on the football banner, join the Pick'em contest, $150 an Amazon gift card to the people that pick the most winners each and every week. We appreciate you, my friend. Thanks again.
All right, boys.
All right, brother. Stanford Steve joining us here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
All right, we'll break down that game a little bit more when we come back and dive into. Actually, there's a couple tonight that could be intriguing. We'll discuss those and get back into the SEC next, right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. I'm going to have to bail a little bit early later in the show to go to meetings, so I want to get some of our picks out of the way before we get to that. Let's just go back to the South Carolina Vanderbilt game, G-Mac. I'll be on the call for it. 6:45 on the SEC Network. Excited for this game for a lot of different reasons. And as you heard us discussing with Stanford Steve, this Vanderbilt roster is, I don't know if a lot of people are aware of it yet. It's very different than it was a year ago. You look at some of the offensive linemen that have been added. Bryce Henderson comes in. He's at right tackle. You have Chase Mitchell from Liberty at right guard. He's 340 pounds, and he actually moves fairly well. You get Cade McConnell from Minnesota, who's 6'5", 323. And you got a new, more physical offensive line with a couple new pieces on defense. I don't love the South Carolina offensive line. And I don't think that the Vanderbilt D line is overly active, but they're going to give you different looks that can be problematic. Like I told Stanford Steve, man, I think this comes down to a couple decisions by Diego Pavia. Do they go the way of the Commodores, or does that end up being field position / points for South Carolina? And that's, to me, the deciding factor.
I haven't watched enough of Vandy's defense. That's the only issue. I have not watched enough. So I have watched their offense. I love what I saw last week. Help me understand how their defense looks in 20 seconds.
They get after you. And
I know
they have
hard.
safeties. They have safeties and linebackers that are not afraid to play near the line of scrimmage, and those guys are a problem because they're going to give you a ton of different looks. Discuss that one more when we come back next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. We just finished up our discussion on Vandy, South Carolina. You said, GMAC, right here at 8 o'clock. Hour number 2 underway, Friday, September 12th. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Apps in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. You're just straight up going with Vanderbilt in this game. You say the Commodores get a win.
Yes. I think Vandy continues to be a significant problem offensively. Like, I think Vandy, with how they play, just knowing without watching like a ridiculous amount of tape on their defense, I know how they play defensively. I think they can cause a couple problems for sure, but I think their offense is ahead of schedule. That's why I'm optimistic about them pulling the outright upset. And I know it's hard to go on the road and win games and all this other stuff, but the reality is Vandy, to me, looks ahead of schedule compared to where South Carolina is. South Carolina, I thought their performance last week was not where it needs to be going into conference play. And I don't know if they just not show anything or not do anything, but it's now 2 games in a row in which I haven't come away feeling very inspired with what I saw.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that the offensive line has having some struggles. That's not a group that really – they do play hard. I think they're trying to find extra tight ends to be able to utilize inconsistency from the receivers. We knew those positions were going to need to step up, so the traditional run game's not there. But I will say, with the aggressiveness that Vanderbilt gives you, they leave a lot of green open. And that's not necessarily to throw the ball, but sometimes to run the ball. So misdirection, things of that nature could end up being problematic. They'll overload one side and bring everybody. They don't replace back the way that they need to and get into space at certain points in time. And I think that's what Coach Shula's got to steal. He's got to find a way to get to that, depending on what the alignments are and the pressures that he thinks he's going to get. So I think it's going to be a really good game. And like I said with Stanford Steve, I think it comes down to a couple of Diego Pavia decisions. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they catastrophes? Because we've seen them be before, and we've seen them be the opposite of that before. So that to me, and it's cool talking to Clark Lee about it because he's like, listen, like remember he told us at media days, you asked him about some of the things he had been saying, and he's like, listen, I don't want to change him. I want him to be him, and it's the same thing with these plays because when he makes them, they need them, and they need that, and they need the fear of that from other opponents, but at the same time, you can't find different ways to help your opponent get field position, get the ball back, and get points, and sometimes that's what he does. So it's a really fine line they're walking with just letting him be him and then asking him to be careful. And somewhere in the middle of that's where they want to live. And some of that stuff you can't coach, Greg, because the guy's going to do what he's going to do.
Yeah. I think there's some of that. I mean, the guy's going to do what he's going to do. The guy's going to create some opportunities, create some space, create some plays. Make something out of nothing, manufacture opportunities, move the field, move the ball. Like, all that stuff's great, but the reality is, in a game like this, is it a game of risk avoidance or is it a game of empowerment of the offense? Because you got to make that decision, I think, on a week-to-week basis, and it might take a quarter and a half to decide. For example, Clemson, LSU a couple weeks ago. This is a risk avoidance game. They don't take unnecessary risks. The defense is blowing and going. They're doing great. Let's not put them in a tricky spot. So if it requires you being a little more conservative than you'd like to be, then by all means. How would you approach it if you are Mike Shula? How would you approach it if you are Lenora Sellers? Is this a risk avoidance game, or is this a game where it's like, all right, we're going to need to score 30 to go get it done? As I don't know the answer to that just yet. But
yeah, South Carolina's defense not giving up 30, I don't think. And not with the pace and tempo of this game. So I still think I think South Carolina's defense is flying a little under the radar. I think their secondary is going to be able to cover up a lot, and that'll allow them to do different things at the line of scrimmage. I think they're getting better reps from some of the guys inside, like Nick Barrett and Goodwine. And I think Clayton's going to throw some things at Diego that he hadn't seen. I mean, he does it almost every game.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it'll be in the alleys. It'll be something with linebacker, safety, corner, defensive end play. Because we know Vandy does so much laterally on offense, whether it's screens, whether it's straight option plays, whether it's pop passes, whatever it is. They like to live right there outside tackle. That's why their offseason emphasis was more direct runs because they, number one, those yards before contact for the running backs. They wanted that to improve. But then number two, they knew teams were starting to figure out, all right, if we can take away some of these perimeter runs with our alley defenders and give them the help they need, they don't have a whole lot else. Because obviously the traditional passing game is not going to, it's not going to hurt you that bad. You're going to Eli Stowers will get you a few times, but I think that how Clayton handles the alleys will be really interesting in this game because that's where Vandy usually gets the majority of their running the football.
Well, that's triple option principles, like handle the alleys, right? And that's what Vandy is in a roundabout way, in a innovative and less than traditional way. It's alley attacking, and if you can defend that, you got to feel pretty good about it. The problem is, I don't know if Vandy's going to score 30. I'm not saying that. I think Vandy's passing a game is a little bit more advanced than it was a year ago. A little bit. I'm not saying it's crazy. But I do think that this could be a game where you can rock them to sleep. And some of the man stuff that you see from South Carolina, I think Vandy can catch them a little off guard if they are playing some man, because Diego Pavia can make some things happen with his own legs. Like, I don't want to play man against Diego Pavia at all. So that's kind of what I'd be curious. Do they abandon their own core principles, or do they decide to make a game plan specific defensive set where it might not be what they always do really, really well, but it is what they need to do in this game to be at their very best against this style of attack and specifically this style of quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yep. Jody tweeting into the show at Mac and Cube. If you want to be a part, you can also hit us up on the Higginbotham hotline. Any questions about college football, comments on college football for this weekend you want to get to, we can do that. 800-239-9569. Not sure why anyone's surprised by South Carolina's offensive struggles when they know Mike Shula is the OC, most vanilla, unimaginative offensive coach in the game. I would actually go against that and say that a lot of the movement, formation, not just pre-snap movement, but post-snap movement, stealing eyes, has been responsible for a lot of what South Carolina's gotten on offense this year. So his plan has actually led to – they don't have a lot of receivers that are just making plays. I know Nick Harbor made a couple against Virginia Tech. He didn't make a ton in their second game against South Carolina State. Their offensive line's not just opening up holes in the run game, so the traditional run game's not there. So he's had to use different read plays, option plays, different movement pre-post-snap to be able to make a lot of this go. That's the reason a lot of it's gone for them.
Well, answer me this, just out of sheer curiosity, because I don't know the answer. We all kind of think that calling plays in the NFL is like pretty hard, right?
Yes.
It's not easy, right? Like you got to
Depends
dial it
who
up.
your quarterback is, but
correct. And Mike Shula was calling plays for the Carolina Panthers in a season in which they went 15-1 and went all the way to the Super Bowl. And Cam Newton had an MVP performance. So I think that what Jody is saying is completely inaccurate. So you can say what you want about the Mike Shula that was coaching at Alabama 20 years ago versus the Mike Shula that is currently coaching the offensive side of the football for South Carolina. He has evolved greatly since that point. So to say he's unimaginative and uncreative and lacks creativity, okay, you clearly haven't watched where Mike Shula has gone from a philosophical standpoint the last couple of years, because I do think that he does a really good job offensively. I think he learned a lot in his time with the Buffalo Bills. I think he learned a lot in his time with the Carolina Panthers and how to deal with the quarterback that is comparable in skill set to Cam Newton, frankly. So I think there's a lot of benefits that Mike Shula can actually provide that side of the ball. But I also think that with liabilities along the offensive line, you are a little bit hamstrung always in this league if your offensive line's a problem. And I don't feel like their offensive line is where it needs to be a legitimate top-tier contender at this point of the season. Doesn't mean they can't develop into that, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, your O-line can lift your entire offense up, just like ProLift can help get your garage going.
That's right. ProLift does an amazing job, and they can work on all types of doors as well. They're locally owned and operated community. They're here in all over Alabama. They can help you obviously here in Birmingham, but they're also down in Baldwin County. If you're listening to us down in Mobile, Baldwin County area, they can get you taken care of down there as well. They can work on existing garage doors for repairs. They can install new ones. What I love is there's no service call fees. You only pay for the work. You can have them come out and check out your home for free. And what you decide to have done, that's what you pay for, which to me gives me great peace of mind as a homeowner. Whether it's unusual noises, slow response times, vibration, shaking, call for that maintenance service. In Baldwin County, you can call Jeffrey at 251-210-2300. That's 251-210-2300. Or you can call Mike here in Birmingham area, 205-931-5927. I think it's easiest just to go online and check out proliftdoors.com. That's proliftdoors.com. ProLift Garage Doors, lifting your expectations.
All right, let's start talking about another game that is going to take place in the Southeastern Conference this weekend, and that is Georgia-Tennessee. I think an intriguing matchup for multiple reasons. And obviously, there are a lot of Tennessee fans, a lot of folks really don't care about either side, Greg, that are starting to say could be the best chance Tennessee's had in quite some time. Whether it's holes that you see with Georgia, whether it's extra things Tennessee's added, whatever that is, it does feel like this one has a chance to be competitive if certain things go the Vols' way. Where will you be looking first initially, just to see how this game's going, based on questions you have about both sides in the matchup?
Without question, most important thing to me is how does Georgia's offensive line hold up, number one. The right side of the offensive line, all signs point to that they're good to go. Both guys are back. Freshman guard Gaston's back. Sounds like right tackle's back, and hopefully at 100%. Hopefully they're good enough to not be affected by the injuries that kept them out last week. That's number one. Number two, how aggressive will Mike Bobo be? If you look back at this game last year, it was a tight end fest. They hit the tight ends, they hit the seams, they really worked the intermediates. Is that the direction you want to go? Or do you want to take advantage of Tennessee's unproven corners? You have Colton Hood on the outside, who's transferred from Colorado. He's a good player. You got a true freshman on the other. So you got some youth and some relative inexperience on the outside. Do you challenge that group? Because so far from Georgia, it's been very vanilla offensively. Doesn't mean it's not in there. It just means they haven't decided to do it. So those are the two things I think the biggest part of this game is Georgia's offense against Tennessee's defense, and how much are they willing to kind of take the training wheels off this passing attack.
So a lot of folks are going with the cornerback situation, and that Tennessee's got these corners, and that seems to be the big question of they're young, they don't have the depth, and then Georgia, can they find a way to push the ball down the field? We haven't really heard your thoughts on Gunnar Stockton's inability to get the ball down the field. Mine, Greg, is that, one, a lot of the play calls have been quick throws or screens on the perimeter. I think there's a lot of them Bobo trying to work him in a little bit, continue to get him comfortable, maybe even set a few things up down the road. Two, I don't know if our stats has it, if you can find it. I'd like to know how many just straight drop back opportunities Gunnar Stockton's had this year, because I don't feel like it's a ton. A lot of it has been some sort of play action protection, some sort of move protection where he hasn't had a chance to just get back there, survey the field, throw a ball. And a lot of times, if he has, or even when it hasn't been that protection, he's been pressured. And, a lot of guys are mad at him for not being able to push the ball 20, 30, 40 yards down the field. And I think all of those things are factors as to why not. I also don't think Tim Banks is dumb. And Tim Banks knows his corner situation, and I think he'll try to protect him. I think Tim Banks, like you just said, is going to find out first, can my D-line win by themselves? Do I have to help them? Do I have to add? Do I have to move them a ton? Do I have to be overly aggressive? Because I don't think he's necessarily going to just add extra guys down early to say we're taking the runaway, we're going to make the quarterback beat us. I think he wants to help his corners initially, and then I think the game does come down to Gunnar Stockton. But, Greg, I think it comes down to his legs. I think it comes down to him either keeping some read plays. If they do allow pressure again, does he get out of there on time? Is he able to find things downfield when he does? Because I don't have the confidence that all of a sudden he is just going to be able to operate for 4 or 7 seconds in the pocket. He hadn't been able to do it a ton this year so far. So why would he do it against the best D-line they've played?
I don't know. I think the run game for Stockton's big. And by the way, you said that like a lack of ability to throw the ball down the field. I think Gunnar Stockton can throw it down the field.
Oh no. I don't think he's not able. I just don't think he's had as many chances as a lot of people that are mad about him not being able to do it are saying. A lot of folks are just kind of piling it on him. He's got the arm, no doubt, 100%.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. I think he can absolutely throw it down. I think he's a better thrower than people realize. We haven't seen it. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that they don't trust their protection. I also think part of that has to do with all right, let's not take anything unreasonable risks. Let's not take any unreasonable chances. Doesn't mean it's not in there. It just means they haven't tried. So I think that's a big question mark. As far as just straight drop back, I don't think that's who Gunnar Stockton is. I don't think he's a straight drop back, Carson Beck type of guy. I think he is a play action guy. I think he is a bootleg guy. I think he is a guy that they want to move the pocket for and kind of give him that element, present that element of the threat of the run. I think he is he's Connor Shaw. And Connor Shaw did not thrive on drop back.
Great comp, by the way.
That's him. I mean, like, literally, he wears the same dang number. Like, that's him. I mean, he is Connor Shaw at South Carolina a couple years ago, who, by the way, was a great player, but had limitations on some of the standard drop back game. Like, not going to throw it a country mile downfield. He's going to be a guy that's going to kind of operate on the underneath, on the intermediate, going to move the pocket, going to change the launch point, going to create misdirection because he is a threat to run, and is just kind of a gamer, which I love. I'm all about it. But also,
by the way, if you're a Georgia fan and you were guaranteed to get Connor Shaw, you take that and sprint
all day. I love him. I think Gunnar Stockton's going to end up being a great player. I just don't think the ability to like stretch the field on a regular down and distance is going to be there all the time. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a methodical style of attack as opposed to a guillotine. It's a paper cut offense, not a guillotine, which, by the way, is perfectly fine. I love that style of attack. Ball control helps your defense.
Yeah, your defense ends up being good. Go for it.
Yeah. I think it's a great situation to be in. So that's what I'm most encouraged by is what they can be. It's just we haven't seen it. And if you're going to be that style of attack, their offensive line better be nails. And I think they are in the run game. We'll see. But I don't know yet about the pass game. I really don't. Because Ernest Green struggled against true speed rush last year. I know he was banged up playing left tackle last year. Now he's playing right tackle. You got true freshman to right guard. Like, if I were Tennessee, I would throw the kitchen sink at the right side of that offensive line.
Yeah.
Pass rush. I think it is of the utmost importance for Georgia to stay on schedule in this game because I like Tennessee's pass rushers. I think they got some juice up front. And I know Tim Banks is not a guy that's going to kind of play conservative defensively. They're going to dictate terms. They're going to try to. So I think it's a big tight end game. I think it's a big isolation game. I think they're going to have to do some interesting stuff.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll continue talking about that one just a little bit more. We'll get to Alabama, Wisconsin, Auburn, South Alabama. A lot of other games nationally we haven't touched on yet. We need to get to those. Before we get out of here, I'll tell you about our friends at Train. The Heat's coming back this weekend. You see Mizzou moving their kick to noon, GMAC, with ULL tomorrow because of extreme heat. So, yeah, it's on its way. It's going to be here this weekend. You want to have the reliability of a Train. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Train cooling system in your home. They've been recognized as America's most trusted brand 11 consecutive years. They're the official cooling partner here at Jocks. Find a comfort specialist near you at Train.com. It's hard to stop a Train. All right, we'll be back to talk more college football on a Max Ball Friday next on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys being with us. It's 9:22 where I am, 8:22 where GMAC is in Baton Rouge, and where you guys are in Birmingham. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, getting set for Vandy, South Carolina. Just finishing up on some of our conversation from our last segment, Tennessee, Georgia. We'll go ahead and get our picks in there. I couldn't pick South Carolina, Vandy, because I'm going to be doing that game, but you obviously did, and we'll pick this Tennessee, Georgia game as well, one that neither one of us are going to be calling. I'm interested to see where the Georgia defense really is, Greg, because I watch it and I see pieces of it and think, okay, Christian Miller, like that's the way it usually looks. But then two plays later, it's not the way that it looks. Elo Mendoza got a little more run last week. It's like, all right, he can help. Like if they can continue to get him going, he offers something a little bit different. The way Raylan Wilson's running around making plays, but there are just parts of it that don't look as overwhelming. They don't hit you with those waves of defenders all the time that make you say, yeah, this is totally different than what anybody else is doing or has the capabilities of doing. I think what Tennessee has up front this year on that offensive line, not losing much, and going back to what this will be interesting here in a couple of weeks as we'll find out, but going back to what Stanford Steve asked, I mean, Tennessee's a team right now that I think it's unknown. It's uncertain in that department, but could they be better than they were a year ago? We'll find out. We'll see. But I just think the consistency in which they've moved the football, how they're going to use the tight ends, Aguilar having that accuracy and some of the intermediate, higher percentage throws with the ability to run it is going to give Georgia some problems. Not as many problems as it has in the past, or Georgia won't dominate as much as they have in the past. But I just don't know if they're built exactly similar to how they have been when they've pretty much stomped that offense out. And this physical aspect of what Tennessee wants to be, I think, has a chance to have a little more success this year than some of the others.
Yeah, I like Tennessee's offense this year a lot. Like I think that they don't have as many big misses as I feel like they've had in the past. I feel like they've done a really good job of I think the offensive line so far has been impressive. Now, it's hard to kind of go about the evaluation of Syracuse because Syracuse might at the end of the day be a remarkably human outfit. I mean, that's absolutely possible. But at the same time, I haven't seen a whole lot of inspired football from Georgia. Is it in there? Absolutely. Like they're, I think, poised to have their best performance. I would not at all be surprised if Georgia comes out and wins this game. But based on what we've seen, I've seen more from Tennessee. Just based on what we've seen.
God, it's what makes this game so hard, man. It's what makes this game so hard because I'm 100% with you. And like I was talking to our buddy Josh Pate last night, and he talked about the Georgia defense, and I said I feel like for the last however many years we've gotten to this point in the season when it was automatically going to have to be turned on or else, and then they turned it on. And we were in this exact same spot. And I have that same fear that you do of doubting this group. Not that I doubt them, but of just saying that are they going to be able to completely stomp out this offense like they have in the past? You laid it out perfectly. Based on what we've seen, no. But also, recent history has shown us that in these spots, that's when it showed up. And that's when it became that. I think they have the manpower to do it. I think they have the ability to do it. But I just need to see it. And maybe that's why I'm leaning a little bit Tennessee in this one.
I'm leaning Tennessee. Like, I'm talking just based exclusively on what we know. Just what we know. And it does not mean that it doesn't feel good. I'm not going to try to sit here and tell you it feels as good to ever pick against Georgia. Like, I love Georgia's football program. And I love them in games like this. The bigger the moment, the better they seem to rise to it. And I think that they are a team that will – there's a possibility that right now, here we are sitting feeling real good about Tennessee's offensive line, right? I mean, real good. This is
a game that can ruin that for you.
Correct. And guess what? We felt great about Texas's offensive line last year going into the game against Georgia. They got run through like a hot knife through butter. You know what I mean?
Both times.
So this is not right. So it's like it doesn't feel comfortable, but maybe this is finally the year where that Heupel's kind of got a good beat on it. Where Heupel said, all right, we can get the ball to the edges. We can win on the outside potentially. They're going to have to win some one-on-ones. They're going to have to win some one-on-ones, and I'm not 100% confident their offense can do it. I'm optimistic, but I'm not 100% confident. I'm taking Tennessee, but I think Tennessee wins it with their defense. Yeah. That's where I think they win it. And I don't think the corner drop-off from what granted, Jermod McCoy's out there, different animal. He's not, though, but he hasn't been. And you haven't expected him to be out there. I think Colton Hood will hold up fine. I just haven't seen anything vertical right now from Georgia that makes me think you can take advantage of what might be the biggest weakness of Tennessee's defense. And until I see that, it's hard for me to operate with the unknown. So I'm taking Tennessee. I don't feel great about it, but this would be a game I would not play. If you gave me $100, I would not play 1 cent of that money on this game because it is really hard to go against Georgia. It's also hard to go against Tennessee at home in a game that I'm sure Heupel has made a huge point of emphasis this whole offseason because they haven't scored more than 17 in the last 4 years against Kirby Smart-led team. So I'm going Tennessee, but I'll be first to admit it is remarkably uncomfortable.
I'm with you. Saber, you going Tennessee? That makes 2 of us.
No, I've got to go Georgia. I mean, it feels like this is going to be Tennessee's everything, but I'm not going against Kirby after they look lackluster against a big opponent.
Yeah, that's a lot of times when he finds a way to hit that switch and turn it on. We'll continue talking college football games on a Max Ball Friday. Before we get out of here, Greg, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Bromberg's is outstanding. It's the go-to place for me. If I'm looking for jewelry, things that I'm hoping will be in my family for multiple generations, timeless, priceless pieces of jewelry, Bromberg's is the only option. They're just outstanding. And I've always had a great experience with their sales staff. I've always come away satisfied with what I've picked up, what I've purchased. And I think you guys will feel the exact same way when you go and check out Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village, which they are currently undergoing a significant renovation to that store, just to elevate that experience even better. I don't know how you can elevate it from where it was. It was already that good. But they're going to make it even better. They're going to make it even stronger. And I think you're going to be thrilled with the experience you have when you go and check them out in the Mountain Brook Village store. You could also go and see them at the Summit. You can always take a peek at them online as well at brombergs.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll get to Alabama, Wisconsin, discuss that one a little bit, Auburn, South Alabama, and other games around college football on a Max Ball Friday next on Jocks.
McElroy, Cubelic in the morning at Jocks 94.5, 8:33 here in the Central Time Zone. It is September 12th. Looking forward to Week 3 of the college football season. Also looking forward to the incredible deals you can get when you go take a short drive up to Pullman and see what they have on the lot at Bill Smith Buick GMC. They are the GMC Dealer of the Year. They're the only dealer here in the great state of Alabama that have won the national championship for car dealers. And you can understand why. Take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll see what I'm talking about. Go and take a peek. It's off the charts. Things like GMC Sierra 1500 SLT, $14,500 off the sticker price. I mean, that is a ridiculous deal. Normally, you're paying nearly $67,000. You're getting it at Bill Smith for $52,335. It's deals like that keep you coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers. There's a reason why they sell more GMCs than any dealership in the entire Southeast, because nobody can beat their prices. Nobody can beat their inventory. They also have that used car superstore, so regardless of what your budget is, they can find a solution for you. So take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, let's preview a couple more of these games coming up in the SEC. Tomorrow morning, early kick, the test effect, Alabama, Wisconsin, GMAC. We mentioned the quarterback situation a little bit earlier. Other things that may be of concern for Alabama fans when Wisconsin has the football. Alabama did a great job against outside runs, stretch play, outside zone runs against ULM. Now, they never really had anything going, so I don't know how much of a litmus test it is. But a couple of other weapons maybe just to be aware of. I do like Vinny Anthony is at 8, wide receiver for Wisconsin. I think he's got a little bit of juice, somebody that can hit you on a screen and maybe hurt you a little bit. You're still going to get a run scheme that's going to give you some of those eye violations and take your eyes out of plays. I don't think that Dylan Jones is anything close to what they've had in the past. As far as being scared, being aware of what they're going to be able to bring from the running back position. But, offensive line, like you said, probably not going to be at full strength. That's advantage Alabama. I don't see a ton of ways that this offense really finds consistent yards in this game. I think this is one that Alabama has a chance to overpower. This will be one where you need to be at your landmarks. You need to stay at home. You need to have contain. Don't play too far down inside. Don't jump to gaps at linebacker. And I don't think Wisconsin will find consistent yards if Alabama can do those things on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important for Alabama to just make sure that Wisconsin has to play the slow grind game. I don't see right now like a ridiculous amount of explosiveness from this Wisconsin offense. There's some. It's not bad. It's just not. It's not great. I think it's a game where you got to be real smart. I think it's a game where you just don't want to give them any cheap ones. You don't want to do anything too aggressive, because I think you have a pretty significant advantage as far as your personnel. I think Wisconsin's a proud program. I think they'll play hard, and I think they'll have an answer. And I wouldn't be surprised if they battled and hung in there. But I also, at the same time, think that the talent profile on the Crimson Tide side is pretty significant advantage. Yeah. I think the big key is be smart offensively, try to get the run game going, try to establish the line of scrimmage. I think you're going to have some opportunities in the alleys from a passing game standpoint that you can get. I'd be curious to see how Ryan Williams bounces back in this game. All signs pointing to him being able to go. So I think it's a good matchup for Alabama. I do. I just think at the same time it's going to be a bit of a battle, because I think Wisconsin can junk it up a little bit. You know what I mean? But just making it a bit of a rock fight, which if I were Wisconsin, it's exactly what I'd want to do. Make it a rock fight and see what you got.
Yeah, I hope you get a couple mistakes. I mean, that's kind of what you have to hope for. And you try to force a few of those in a game like this, but you definitely don't want to give it away. And then things get out of hand. You have to play a game you're not comfortable with. And I think trying to come back from behind, throw the ball multiple times of possession for Wisconsin, not what they're looking at. Offensively, what do you anticipate from the plan from Alabama with what they're going to get up against this Wisconsin defense?
My anticipation is probably pretty decent first down, early down, quick game. I think you can get them going a little bit side to side. I would get them running. It's going to be hot. Wisconsin hasn't experienced heat like you're going to see here. I would anticipate a lot of side to side early, get some tongues dragging, and then some shots. Like I would go jet sweeps. I'd go misdirection. I would go sideline to sideline early, and get those big boys running, and then hopefully fatigue will play a role in the game. I think time of possession is beneficial in this game. I think snap exposure's important in this game. And I think if you can just get them running and have them feel the heat, so to speak, literally and figuratively, that can be really helpful for Alabama in this game.
Yeah, it's. I think that heat's going to be interesting in a lot of places. When we look at some of these games and you look at what's coming in, we already talked about the Missouri game being moved up. That actually might work in everybody's favor tomorrow. That game's at 11 and not say 2:30 with the heat that's going to be coming in. I don't feel great about the Wisconsin defensive line being overly disruptive against this Alabama offense. I do think a couple linebackers are active enough to make a few plays, and I think they're going to have to get them involved early. Wisconsin is, if they want to disrupt this Alabama run game, some of the quick. So I actually like a similar type plan of what we saw early against ULM for Ty Simpson in Alabama. As you stated, get on the perimeter quick, get on the perimeter early, widen things out just a little bit. Interested to see if there's more tight end use outside of 80, because I know they want to get that going. They're just not 100% sure who it's going to be and who's going to be healthy. So watch that. You brought up Ryan Williams. How much does he move with the emergence of Brooks last week? I know what that staff thinks about him. So Ryan Williams might move around, do some different things here and there. And then you hit him with the downhill run game a little bit later. Keep an eye on 70 as well to add some extra oomph in the run game. Maybe try to get a little bit more bulk, not just short yardage, but maybe other times. I think he might be somebody that can help them find a little extra push for that Alabama rushing attack. And I don't think the Wisconsin defensive line is going to be disruptive enough to really be problematic in this game. It's an area that Florida State had success with. I don't think Wisconsin can match it. So I'm with you. I'll take Bama, and I don't think it is that rock fight, slow, super tight game. You didn't say super tight. I'm not putting those words in your mouth, but I think Bama walks away from this one in the second half.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking fourth quarter. I think it would be healthy for this game to be a grind early on. I think it'd be great for Alabama to experience some adversity, make some adjustments, burn some chalk on the sideline, and go into the second half as kind of a well-oiled machine. Like I think that's a good thing. So if for whatever reason this game's tight early, that's good for the long-term development, because guess what? The game against Georgia in 2 weeks is going to be tight. There's no doubt about it. So I think it's very, very important for them to be smart, to get things going sideline to sideline, to set things up early in this game so that you can capitalize on them in the second half. So I think you and I kind of see the game a little similarly. I think Bama can run away in the second half. I think their explosiveness is more significant. I just don't know if at this point I don't know enough about Wisconsin's defense. I just don't. Watched them, what I've seen, but I don't know if they've seen this type of personnel to this point.
Well, they're top 5 in multiple statistical categories, but I also think some of that has to do with the level of opponent. So we'll see how it plays out against Bama. We haven't mentioned much about A&M Notre Dame. When we come back, Chris Hummer, article out now at CBS Sports on the Texas A&M passing game and how one person responsible for that is tired of a certain narrative around it. We'll discuss it with him when we come back next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys being with us. 8:45 a.m. Friday, September the 12th. We're going to go right to the Higginbotham hotline. Welcoming Chris Hummer. Article up now at cbssports.com on Marcel Reed and the Texas A&M offense. There's a label that he is this run-first quarterback, that's essentially the strength of his game, not able to get it done through the air. This was an interesting thought, Chris, that he sort of has that perception about himself that other people view him as. And I just wonder, through your eyes and your investigations into this article, how much does the play calling in the actual offense have to do with how anybody is viewing what Marcel Reed's capable of?
Well, I mean, I think the play calling is certainly the impetus for the beginning of this, at least. I mean, everybody. I mean, I don't want to say everyone. There's a lot of people who follow A&M day to day, and a lot of people who follow college football in general. But a lot of people's introduction to Marcel Reed was on the national stage last year when A&M upset LSU, and he went in to replace Connor Wegman in the second half. He threw 2 passes that day, ran for 3 touchdowns, and I think the play calling that day sort of set him up for that narrative. But at the same time, this is also a guy that, even dating back to high school, I think he was a 54% passer as a junior in high school, I believe, and ran in a run-first offense. So I think there was this kind of narrative and conversation that surrounded him, even dating back to his high school days, that he was the guy that's going to put the ball on the ground first. And I think he's working really hard to change that.
I like the way he throws it. Are they pretty satisfied up to this point with his progress as a passer and some of the accuracy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is a guy that at 54% as a full-time starter as a sophomore in high school, and then 59% as a senior, and then 54% last year, kind of coming in early in the year. And then if you look at the end, he was up to 65%. And this offseason, he started working with a guy named Jeff Christensen, who's a quarterbacks coach in the Texas area. Some of his clients include like Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield on the NFL level. They made a couple of mechanical adjustments, and that was a thing that Colin Klein, his offensive coordinator, suggested he do and go work with Jeff Christensen. And I think they're very happy with the way the ball's coming off his hand this year, and they feel like he's really grown in terms of settling into the offense and processing within it a little bit more. And I think thus far, I think he's completing his adjusted completion percentage this year, if you include drops, is 73%. So I think they're very happy with his progress there.
One of the things that I think is intriguing is that this offense, I thought coming into the season, Chris, and Chris Hummer of CBS Sports is joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. I thought this offense had the opportunity to be a north-south run offense, sort of a grinded-out offense, a physical offense, and they have not been that. Do you believe that is more preparing for what's to come, maybe trying to get Marcel Reed more confident, more comfortable, or maybe were we wrong about what this offense had the opportunity to be? Because it is a lot of shotgun, one back offset, not many different run plays, and a lot of Marcel Reed throwing the football.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think A&M has a lot of ways it can go offensively. I would think about it that way. And not to say Utah State and UTSA were layups by any means. I mean, UTSA made that very interesting, but I think early on you're not trying to show everything you're going to be. And I think Texas A&M certainly has the capability to be that later in the season if necessary, given as many starts are on that offensive line, as old as that group is, and as healthy as their running back room is. And that's something I think people forget about last year too, that A&M running back room was pretty devastated by injuries late in the year. But at the same time, like, this is a team that went out and spent a lot of money in the transfer portal to get Mario Craver from Mississippi State and Casey Concepcion from NC State. And those two guys have been a revelation so far for that offense. This was a A&M team that ranked, I think, in the 90th nationally last year, around that area, and explosive plays of 20-plus yards. They're right on the edge of the top 10 so far through 2 games this year, and I think there's been a real concerted effort offensively for that group to open things up a little bit and create more explosives. So I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think A&M is going to lose that ability to grind on people late in the year if it comes down to it, but I also think they believe in Marcel Reed. They have a guy who can open up the offense and really carry them at times.
How has Colin Klein adjusted his, I guess, ideology? Not that he's going to change who he is or his philosophical changes, but I know he hasn't played SEC defenses just yet. So But I do think last year was a little bit of trial by fire. The running back situation that you referenced, the injuries there. I think just getting comfortable with the league, what you can do in the league, what you can't do in the league, how you should attack this team, how you should attack that team. How much progress do you think Colin Klein has made as a play caller and just understanding his own personnel and understanding what opposing defenses can do in the SEC?
Yeah, and I mean that's a great point. I mean, obviously Colin Klein is a guy that has spent a lot of time in the Big 12. His background offensively is a lot different, I guess you would say, than some of the stuff they're running this year so far. And I think part of it's what's available to you in the SEC, and part of it's also personnel. Last year he was juggling not just running backs, right? Like Connor Wigman was hurt a lot of the year. He was juggling a second-year passer in Marcel Reed, who was still really coming into his own in terms of his command of the offense and his command of protections and everything else that goes with it. And I think you probably saw more conservative play calling last year from Colin Klein. And also just they didn't really have a lot of ability to stretch the field. Obviously Noah Thomas was really good for A&M, but outside of Noah Thomas, I mean, they had Terry Bussey coming in as a true freshman, but outside of those two, really, like, there are very few offensive weapons that could both space the field vertically and horizontally from a speed perspective in the SEC. So I think I'm not to say he was like handcuffed or anything like that, but I think it was all of those factors kind of rolled into one, and it caused a season of adjustment for Colin Klein.
That's an interesting thought too, because a lot of people may point to Marcel Reed's weapons as to the success he's had this year. You're giving us a lot of the background. First off, who is his grandfather? What was his grandfather's name?
His grandfather, I should know this off the top of my head. His grandfather was an NFL offensive lineman. I believe he played for Washington. He also was a Tennessee State graduate, just like his dad, Rod, was as an offensive lineman. So
I was trying to think about Reed, offensive lineman in the NFL. I couldn't think of one just off the top of my head. So I was interested reading the article who that was. All right, so where do they go from here? Do they continue to be A&M, this game against Notre Dame, and then beyond that, is this going to continue to be sort of Marcel Reed's show through the air? Do they become a little bit more balanced? Do they go back to maybe trying to be a little bit more run heavy? Is the confidence there with him to the point that this is who A&M is going to be this year on offense?
Well, I think Colin Klein would probably tell you it depends on what the game plan is for the week and the defense they're playing. But, yeah, I think ultimately they do have a ton of confidence in Marcel Reed. This is a guy they committed to pretty quickly this offseason. I know they certainly had the opportunity to go explore some other options in the portal if they wanted to. I know some people would have been interested in potentially being at A&M. But I think they have a lot of faith in Marcel Reed. And at the end of the day, right, like it's just a 50-50 split run pass this year for A&M so far. And I think if you talk to a lot of coordinators, and I mean, y'all know more than I do, like that's ideal if you have a quarterback who can handle that and you could stress people in both ways. So I expect Marcel Reed, unless we see a significant regression in a game like Notre Dame, and obviously this is a huge test, one of the best secondaries in college football, on the road, like it's going to be a little different than it was at home versus Utah State. But if Marcel Reed passes that test, and that's a big check mark, like a lot of people in that program believe it to be, I think he's going to be this guy all year. I think there's a lot of faith in him.
There you go.
How would you anticipate them approaching this game this year? Do you think it's comparable with the game plan as last year? Just quickly, I know we have a minute or two.
I think it's going to be a little more. I think there's probably going to be a little more openness offensively for them. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think ball control is important against Notre Dame. I think staying in the game is important against Notre Dame. So it's probably going to be a little more conservative than we've seen earlier this year, and maybe a little bit more like last year. But I think at the end of the day, they trust in Marcel Reed, and they're going to attack with Marcel Reed.
There you go, Chris. Great stuff, man. Appreciate you hopping on. Great interview. A great article. We'll tag that up from our social account, and people can go check it out, read it. But thanks for hopping on today.
Appreciate it, y'all.
There you go, Chris Hummer with CBS Sports. His article up now on Marcel Reed, Texas A&M quarterback, looking to lead the Aggies to a win against the Irish after off-season mechanics overhaul. Texas A&M's Marcel Reed ready to shed run-first quarterback label for good. So can he continue to do that? Will he continue to do that? We'll see. I'll tell you about game day mental.
You know what's funny, though, like about that? Like when you've watched him, did you ever view him as like a run-first guy? Like I know he's got the ability to run, but I never viewed him that way until the article. Like I never thought of him that way. You know, it's funny.
No,
it's just
it's like some Kirby Smart mindset stuff. Like I don't believe people have really thought
100%.
that. But that's his perception of what he thinks
Kirby
people
Smart,
see.
Yeah, hey, I love it. Like if it like, whatever voodoo mind trick you need to use on yourself, like to create that edge, like I love it. But I've never really thought of him that way. It's just funny to hear that's how he kind of saw himself, or he thought that people were thinking about him that way.
Absolutely. All right, Game Day Men's Health wants you to feel better. If you lack energy, getting poor sleep, feel on edge, could be the effects of low testosterone. If you need to lose weight, they have multiple weight loss programs that they can offer you to help you with now. The peptides are in stock. Your body discontinues making those over time. They're going to help you get that going as well at Game Day Men's Health. All you have to do is go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, sign up for the free consultation, free PSA test, free testosterone test. They'll let you know where your baseline health is. No charge consultation comes with that. Holistic approach to health and wellness. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Office also open in Trustville, so don't forget about that with Game Day Men's Health. All right, we're back with more next right here on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9 a.m. Friday, September 12th here on Jocks. Listen online, JocksFM.com. Watch live on YouTube every day. Just search Jocks945, and you can check us out there. Your CBD store wants to help you feel better. If you've got skincare issues, if you have gut health problems, you or your pet, they can help with that. Arthritis, anxiety, they can help. The Trim by SunMed on the shelves now at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world. That's to help curb your appetite, maybe lose a little bit of weight if you need to. Go check out your CBD store. products to help take the edge off in the evenings, better focus throughout the course of the day, better sleep at night, can help you with all of that. And they are open, and there's no issues with anything happening with any of their stores. One of their 3 locations, go check them out today for great customer service. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver. Trustful just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. Texas A&M Notre Dame, coming off that conversation with Chris Hummer, GMAC. How do you see this one playing out? Marcel Reed obviously going to be a big part of it. I think that maybe I just want to believe that there's an aspect of what A&M has been doing offensively the last couple of weeks because they know they're not going to be able to live on the ground against this group. And Notre Dame's not going to be a team that's just going to allow yards to go that way, and they're going to need to do some things through the air. Problem is, Notre Dame's got good corners. And schematically, a sound defense that's not going to give you a lot. The receivers that A&M's brought in, Terry Bussey, Concepcion, these guys obviously are different than what they've had in the past and playing well. I wonder about Texas A&M from a pass pro perspective because there has been a little bit of leakage and they haven't played teams like what Notre Dame's going to offer. I think if Texas A&M can find anything on the ground, then they win this football game. I just don't know how much of it they're going to at least give a fair chance to against a stingy Notre Dame front.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big questions I have in this game is how do you neutralize the I think the hardest thing is to figure out how you neutralize what should be a really ticked off Notre Dame defensive front. Like they had 1 sack, they had countless pressures. Like I think that group is going to pin their ears back and go in this game. How can you run the football? Like, are you going to be able to run the football? I think they can. Like, I think Notre Dame is a good defense, but I don't think you're going to have as much zone coverage as we saw week 1 from Notre Dame. I think you're going to see a little more man. That's just my own perception because I'm sure after a week off, they're like, why are we abandoning something that allowed us to be one of the best defenses in the country last year? Like, we got to get back to doing what we do. I think you're going to see a little more pressure because they're all angry. Like, I think Notre Dame's already in back against the wall mode, which is a dangerous spot to be in if you're Texas A&M going up there to try to get a win. So how do you establish the run? That's the big key. Do you think they can do it? Like, do you feel like A&M's offensive line can establish the run against this group?
The only way I think they can do it is with more spread out formations, removing some defenders from the box, and Marcel Reed, kind of what we talked about with Grubb in Alabama, potentially doing in Wisconsin, has to loosen them up on the perimeter early, get a couple of those quick hitters going, get them thinking perimeter, get them thinking like maybe pass rush is not going to matter today because the ball's going to be out so quickly. And then you try to come back and with a less heavier personnel grouping, have some direct runs that potentially could go. Mano-a-mano, I don't know because I haven't seen it really. I mean, how many evened up offensive formations has Texas A&M been in and given their backs opportunities to run the football? And then done it multiple times in a series. So, I mean, if you're just going to sit there and shotgun with a running back offset, Greg, I don't think you can run the football against this group because I think they're able to key in on a couple of runs, and you're not going to be able to vary your runs enough. Misdirection's not going to be enough for you to keep defenses off balance, and it won't happen. So, yeah, I'm going to probably have to lean no right now just because I haven't seen Texas A&M really even try it.
Right. It doesn't mean they can't. Like we said, it's the same thing with Georgia. Like, can they throw it deep? I don't know. Because they haven't shown us. You know what I mean? I hope they can. I'm assuming they can. I just don't know that. They hadn't shown us. The other part of this conversation is, and we've talked about it countless times on this show dating back to last year, will A&M's defensive front just anchor down, or are they going to try to dictate terms? Because that I think is a big part of the game. I think that Notre Dame's probably looking at it like, man, we did not give Jeremiah Love enough touches in that first game on the ground. He had 10 carries. I think you're going to get a heavy dose of Jeremiah Love. And I think a lot of it's going to be some pin and pull stuff. I think it's going to be trying to take advantage of the aggressiveness that A&M uses up front defensively. I think you're going to see some man schemes. And I think they're going to try to gap you. And if that works, then great. But I don't know what you think. Like, do you think that this A&M defense can be patient enough to kind of stay at home and let the game come to them?
I think so, because what else are they going to – I mean, I don't know. Do you think they're going to be like trying to pin their ears back and pass rush the whole game? I don't – I mean, they would have to build a lead for that to take place. So I don't really see that being the philosophy for that group. And I kind of know where you're going, because it feels like last year they were a little bit of an edgy defense. And when I say that, I mean didn't play directly down the middle of you all the time. But they had guys that were just absolute disruptors. Now, they might have one or two of those this year, but maybe not quite as many. Can they play down the middle of teams a little bit better this year than they did a year ago? That's another aspect that we just don't really have an idea of, because we haven't seen them have to do that yet. I think they can hold up. I mean, I like Regis inside. I think DJ Hicks is one of those guys that if he needs to kind of hold the point, he could do it. Now, we know Cassius Howell's not really that guy, but I mean, he's aggressive enough to make plays and cause problems. And I don't think Scooby Williams minds playing in the box. So do they have the numbers to do it? Depending on the pace and tempo of this game, like the possessions and how the clock's going, I think A&M can. Once again, haven't seen them really have to yet. And I think they want this game to go to the air. I think they want to be able to rush the passer. They want to use their linebackers in pressure situations, and probably look at the Notre Dame passing game and say, if you get us with that, so be it. But we can't let Jeremiah Love and company in that offensive line control the tempo and outcome of this game, because it's obviously Notre Dame's strength.
I think that's the hardest part about this game, because I think if they can get them in obvious passing situations, I think Notre Dame will struggle in protection. I didn't see anything, and I know Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor in Miami are a different animal. Those guys can go. But tell you what, Cassius Howell and co, like, they don't take a huge back seat to them. No. Those guys are pretty sporty themselves. So if it becomes a throw-a-thon for Notre Dame, that is not what you want, because I am pretty confident in that defensive line working against an offensive line that, albeit one game, one sample size, there wasn't a lot of inspiring moments in that first game as far as pass pro is concerned. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
And they got pushed around.
I'm going to go
pushed around, you name it.
I'm going to go Texas A&M in this game, because I think they create a couple more explosives through the air, and I don't think that has to be an extended period of time in the pocket. I think it can be something out wide, it can be something quick, it could be a slant, and I think they'll find those explosives. I don't think that this game allows a ton of possessions for each team, really. And so 1-2 explosives ultimately could be the difference in the game. I'm going to take A&M and Marcel Reed going up to South Bend and finding a way to get this thing done, because I do think that they create a little bit more through the air and then probably try and settle things down a little bit later. And if that doesn't go, it's so be it, because I just don't know how much of the Notre Dame offense is truly going to get off the ground in this game if A&M is focused on Jeremiah Love, which I think they will be.
Yeah, I think they'll sell out against Jeremiah Love, and I think they'll take their chances on the outside. The guy that can win this game for Notre Dame is Malachi Fields. Had the fumble early in the game against Miami, made a big play a little later on. Like, if he's on an island, you got problems. Because I think that guy's the real deal. I think he's big. I think he's physical. I think he can go up and make plays. So I think he's the guy to watch in this one. If you're looking for someone beyond Jeremiah Love, like, watch number 1 for Notre Dame, because he can single-handedly win it. I like Notre Dame in this game. I think it'll be close. I also think that Notre Dame's coaching staff, now with an extra week to kind of address some concerns, is in a good spot. A&M, it's not that they haven't been impressive. There have been impressive aspects of both their games so far, but it hasn't been super consistent. And I think that in a game like this, against a diligent, patient, good coaching staff and a physical team that can match you physicality-wise, I think Notre Dame gets it done at home, but it'll be tight. I think it's going to be a really good game.
All right, so Greg and I on different sides of that one. And history is intriguing for both sides of this game. Notre Dame is seeking to avoid their third 0-2 start of the last 15 years. A&M, however, has lost 7 straight road games against AP top 10 teams. The last one they got was against Auburn in 2014. So we'll see how it goes. Notre Dame's won 4 of the last 6 against A&M all time. An interesting one in the state of Florida. South Florida at Miami on
the CW.
There you go.
Bookended by One Tree Hill and Gilmore Girls.
Yep. Yep. They couldn't jam a live golf round in front of that one?
No, that's on Sundays.
Sundays. Got it. All right. So South Florida, fourth team in the AP poll era to win its first 2 games of a season against AP-ranked opponents while being unranked in both wins. They look to make it 3 in a row. And a lot of what they do, Greg, becomes a mismatch. The movement, the aggression on defense, hard for a lot of people to handle, and they got some good players doing it. We know the offense.
And the tempo is a handful, too. Like, if you really look at their tempo, like, it gave Florida a lot of fits last week, I feel like. There's a bunch of times where Florida's still looking at the sideline and they're snapping the ball.
And I think that's why a lot of the contested catches go their way, because guys are not ready when the ball's snapped, and you're not in the best position to go make a play on the football. Because I feel like there were a lot of throws that, under normal circumstances, could have gone either way, and South Florida just ends up coming down with them. Like, Byron Brown is a good quarterback, but I've heard a couple of conversations about him in the last week or two about him being this great quarterback. Like, his skill set is not elite by any stretch of the imagination. He knows the offense. He usually gets it out on time.
He's a good runner, dude.
And he can break you down with his legs, correct.
Yes.
But South Florida 1-6 in the series history against Miami. That one win came in 2010 in overtime. Now Carson Beck's there at Miami. We've seen what they're about this year. Which way do you lean in this South Florida-Miami matchup? 3:30 on the C-Dub.
I think Miami rolls. I like South Florida a lot, but I mean, just watching them, Miami's defense is not going to be as – they're going to be prepared. I think Heatherman does a good job. They don't overcomplicate. They're not going to try to – they're going to just let their front four get home. And I think they can. I think Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor will eat in this game. But the other guy's David Blay, the defensive tackle, number 11. Like, those 3 guys will eat in this game. And I think Byron Brown is a really good player. He's strong. He's hard to bring down. He extends plays. He can break you down with his legs. He can get out of jams. Like, there are so many times when you watch him, he's dead to rights and he breaks a tackle and he's out the gate. I think he's a good player. I think he's a fine thrower. I don't think he's an elite thrower by any stretch. But I think Miami's defense will win along the line of scrimmage. I also think that Carson Beck will get the ball out really quickly. I also think Carson Beck and them, I mean, if you look at Florida, man, they were up and down the field. They just couldn't punch it in because they kept having false starts in the red zone. Like, I mean.
Right.
I think there's a little bit of a misconception on last week's performance. It was impressive by USF, but it was more of an indictment about how Florida played in the red zone, the throws missed by DJ Lagway, the amount of times they'd get in the red zone and get off schedule because of a false start, hold, having a touchdown wiped off the field, missed tackles in the back end that led to big plays, poor angles on the deep ball that allowed him to get over the head, snap over the punter's head for a decisive 2-point safety. Like, I think Miami's a much more of a well-oiled machine than Florida at this point, and they have been battle-tested. I think Miami rolls.
Unfortunately, go ahead. Give us a
38
score.
38,
give it to us.
38-17.
Okay. I might go a touchdown and a field goal, maybe less for Miami, but I do think it's a comfortable win for the Hurricanes. I just think that at the line of scrimmage, they're going to be too much on both sides of the ball. Miami is one of the few teams in college football, Greg, that if you said, can they live in the ground and pound neighborhood? Are they allowed? Do they have the gate code to be able to get in there? Yes. Can they live in pushing the ball down the field and winning a game through the air? I would say they also have the gate code to that neighborhood. That'd be their vacation home. If they need to go stay there, they can also do that. Not a lot of teams I have that confidence in that can live in both neighborhoods. I think Miami can do that. And like you said, this is an offensive line for South Florida that takes great advantage of their scheme. It's not a great group. Ball comes out quick. You mentioned the tempo. You go with that. You have quarterback runs. But this is a Miami defensive line that can overwhelm you. And I will say, maybe with the heat that's coming through, that might affect – I don't see which team that would affect more. If the Miami D-line somehow gets gassed and they're giving up some things on the perimeter early and they got to run out there and tackle screens, okay, possibly. But I just don't see a lot pointing to South Florida getting this win. You and I thought that the matchup against Boise was great. We thought the matchup against Florida was very problematic for the Gators. I'm having trouble finding areas that South Florida has real advantages in this game. and that's my problem. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be comfortable. John, Damian, South Florida pulling the upset for you guys, or no?
I think Miami handles them, but it's kind of like the Wisconsin, Alabama. Like, I think USF will keep it respectful early on, and then Miami will start to pull away late.
Okay. John?
I think this will sadly be a bloodbath because any chance that South Florida had at maybe upsetting them hinged on Miami not taking them seriously. And maybe after what they did to Boise, not after what they did to Florida. No, Miami's going to be locked in like crazy, and it could get ugly.
All right, Greg, I want to hit one more with you before I have to bail and go to South Carolina coaches' meetings, and it's Arkansas at Ole Miss. This is 6 o'clock on ESPN. Both teams 2-0. Ole Miss has won the last 2 meetings, looking to beat Arkansas for 3 straight times for the first time since 1990 to 1993. They have split each of the last 10, and we know that the bananas nature of this game in which it usually goes. I think this is a super dangerous game for Ole Miss. I think Travis is going to have something different for him. I think he's going to have different people lined up in different places. I think if it's Austin Simmons, it's on tape that he has made poor decisions against looks that he thought he was getting and he wasn't a couple of times this year. And I think he knows he can hit him. Now, like I know because you've had him, you get him out of the game, it might not be the gift that a lot of people believe it is because Chambliss can play. He's not the passer. He's not the pure passer, but he's got a dual threat game, and he's kind of just one of those playmaker quarterbacks. So I don't think you just, clock out when he comes into the game and everything's all good. I'm really interested to see the Arkansas run game against Ole Miss because I think the Ole Miss D-line is better than people give it credit for. They can still be problematic. They have a ton of speed at linebacker. They're physical at linebacker, and Taylor Green's going to need it because what they lost in the secondary, Ole Miss I referenced, they've got a couple of guys back that can help. And that defense, I think, is a little ahead of schedule based on the losses where people thought it would be. So it's an intriguing matchup, man. Like, I think Taylor Green has an opportunity to take this game over and be able to break this defense down with his leg. He's got to cut down on the mistakes. He cannot have some of the mistakes that he's made even this year and made in years past. And you got to get Austin Simmons to make some mistakes. I think in the end, Ole Miss ends up putting an extra touchdown on to cap it off late, but I think it's tight. I think it's tight for 4 quarters. And it wouldn't surprise me if Arkansas found a way to pull the upset.
Yeah, I got no problem with that take at all. None. I think Arkansas is very dangerous. I think Arkansas is going to have their hands full up front. Not that Ole Miss's defensive front is like world beaters this year. Statistically, it's not great against the run. But I think if you look at some of the personnel advantages that Ole Miss has up front, that's going to be an issue. I think Taylor Green can make some plays, for sure. I also think Taylor Green can make a couple mistakes in this game, which would be problematic. I think this game could come down to if Austin Simmons goes, does he make a mistake? I think that's a huge part in this game. So I lean Ole Miss in this game. I think it's going to be tight. I think this game could come down to the wire. I think Ole Miss gets a late touchdown to cover, but I don't think it's going to be one where you're like, Ole Miss walks them off the field like last year.
There you go. Damian, John, you guys want to toss in your prediction for Arkansas and Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like how Greg broke it down. Ole Miss it'll be a little closer for comfort because I do think Arkansas has improved and they can – if Ole Miss's offense is slow out the gate and inconsistent as they were last week, then Arkansas can really make it a ball game. But I do think that Ole Miss will be able to finish it on out.
John?
If this game were on the road, I would probably look at Arkansas more, but it'll feel eerily similar to last week that Ole Miss will be in control, even though it may not look like it, but they're going to win the game, and they'll probably most likely cover because I think it's like 7. I mean, they may end up – Lane may be apologizing again because this could end up being like maybe 28-10 in the fourth quarter, but then the final score is like 28-21, something like that.
Okay, there you go. Max Ball Friday continues. I got to bail to go get to South Carolina meetings. We'll have Mark Stewart come up to give you guys a Wisconsin perspective on things and be back with more right after this on Jocks.
Welcome back. McElroy Cubelic in the morning. Jocks 94.5. Great weekend of games this weekend. I mean, a lot of intrigue. I love so much. So right now, you look at it weeks 2, week 4, and maybe not like the sexiest matchups, maybe not as many matchups as you'd love, but to be honest with you, weeks 1, 3, and 5 are off the charts good. So September continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. If you're thinking about, making some changes right now, if you're thinking about making some adjustments, maybe thinking about moving, highly recommend you checking out Crocker Moving Services, our local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. You can trust them in your home. They need your whole home packed to move. Your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room. These guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased need to get to your home. So call, visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move. All right, we welcome him in now. He's Mark Stewart, and honestly, it's so great to have so many people that all over the place are just so dialed in to their school and the school that they covered. And honestly, we don't know enough about what's going on with Wisconsin here in the Birmingham market. So we're very much looking forward to our visit with Mark Stewart. He is the University of Wisconsin sports reporter from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Mark, we appreciate the time, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Doing wonderful. Anxious to see this game this weekend and anxious to see how much Wisconsin's improved. We all saw the game last year. It was not competitive. Partly, though, I think because of Tyler Van Dyke's injury on the first drive of the game. That just was a bit of a shell shock for Wisconsin at that point. So we'll start there. How is Wisconsin different this year than a year ago?
Well, I mean, I was going to say that one thing that's not different is it's a quarterback injury. But how are they different? Right. I think during the offseason they made some changes defensively. They got bigger up on the defensive line. They got some more versatility with their outside linebackers. So that was one of the big changes. Offensively, there's a new offensive coordinator, and there's more of a goal to be more multiple. More of a, I guess you'd call it a pro-style type offense. Last year, Wisconsin was they ran the air raid, which is a, more pass-heavy, quarterback-dependent type of scheme. What they're running now, they hope gives them a chance to, take advantage of a quarterback if he's really talented or if he's really hot. But if that's not the case, they've got other options. They can do other things. You're going to see a lot of tight ends tomorrow. A lot of 2 tight end packages. So it's just a lot more versatile offensively this year.
When you look at the quarterback situation, Billy Edwards was the guy handpicked by the staff to be the guy. Danny O'Neill, pretty nice little insurance policy. Guys thrown for, over 2,100 career yards at San Diego State. How does the offense change with Billy Edwards out there when compared with what O'Neill might bring?
Well, I've asked them that question a few times, and they swear that it's, things pretty much stay the same. Now, I will say that, Danny O'Neill is a little more mobile, a little quicker. And to me, it seems like they take advantage of that some. But there are a lot of similarities with what they're asking those guys to do. And again, I think that goes to the philosophy that they didn't want to have an offense that was dependent so much on the quarterback. Because if Wisconsin the last 2 years, last year they lost Tyler Van Dyke for the season. The year before that, they lost their starting quarterback for 3.5 games. He broke his hand, and those were games that probably determined whether they were gonna win the Big Ten West. I think that's what cost them the Big Ten West a couple of years ago. So I do think they try to keep things as similar as possible, and they just tell their guys, hey, this week this is what you're going to have to be required to do, and Danny O'Neal's come in and he's done. Last week he was pretty strong. The first week, kind of shaky, but that kind of happens sometimes when you're, called in off the bench in the second quarter. So I'm definitely interested to see what happens with him tomorrow.
How do you anticipate the wide receiver matchup? Because look, if you look at some of the wideouts, I think the lack of juice, the lack of consistency, it stalled the offense under the previous offensive coordinator. I'm blanking on his name. I don't know why I can't remember that. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Was at North Carolina. Now he's the head coach of Sam Houston. Phil Longo. Part of the reason why they struggled there, it felt like they just didn't have the personnel on the outside to kind of make that offense and that system go. Is the wide receiver core more capable, less capable, comparable to, smaller role naturally with this style of attack, but is it a talented group from top to bottom?
Yeah, I think so. I think they, on the surface, it seems like they added talent there. Now, this is only game 2. And,
sure.
I've seen guys in spring and fall camp who look great. And then when the season comes, they can't get any separation. So, I would say so far so good in that regard. Their top receiver, Vinny Anthony, he played last year. He kind of broke out after the Alabama game, though. He really became a more of a big play threat after the Alabama game. They've got a guy named Tretch Kekahuna, who's a slot receiver that they use in a variety of different ways. Real elusive, one of those guys that, you can put him in a phone booth and you might have a hard time getting a hand on him. So, those are two of the guys. They got one of their veterans, Chris Brooks, is more of a all-around type receiver, a guy who probably wouldn't have played much last year because of the scheme. But now that they've changed and they're more physical, it kind of fits what they're doing. So I do think the group it's a little deeper, and it has, some intriguing potential. One other guy I mentioned,
sure.
Sorry, I'm in an airport here.
Oh, do you kidding me? We and Cole have done shows from airports forever, so you don't even think twice about it. I can promise you none of our listeners will be fazed whatsoever by travel issues or woes.
Yeah. But, one other guy that's kind of intriguing to me is his name's Jaden Ballard. He played at Ohio State last year, but he didn't really get a lot of run there just because Ohio State's really deep. But the guy is super fast. In high school, I think he was a top 100 recruit. And, he's at Wisconsin for it last year. Last week he had a 58-yard touchdown. So, there's some explosiveness there. I am interested to see, how they do. Really how this is a great measuring stick for Wisconsin heading into the Big Ten. Not many people are expecting them to win. But, this is one of those games. Okay, where do you stand? What are you good at? What are you going to build on? So that's what I'm looking forward to this week.
Visiting with Mark Stewart, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. It's always great to kind of get this perspective, by the way. We're very, very lucky and grateful for your time this morning. Luke Fickell, a bit of a crossroads, 15-13, I believe, is his overall record thereabouts, including the 2 wins this season. Where's the fan base right now with Luke Fickell? Because he's a guy that this part of the world knows a lot about, with seeing him take Cincinnati to the playoff and playing against Alabama, and I think everyone has respect for him, but it doesn't seem like it's gone very well for him in Madison. Where are people at with him?
There's definitely some frustration. If you compare, where we were at 2 years ago, where everyone was, booking their tickets for the college football playoff, to, now it's, there's a lot more hesitation, a lot more skepticism, a lot more, questioning what he does. But having watched them the last 2 years, one, I give him credit for pulling the plug on. You could say, okay, the air raid was never going to be a good fit for Wisconsin just because of the kind of guys they traditionally get. But, once he realized it, he pulled the plug on it. They made some changes defensively, so it's not like he's standing pat. It's, there's some recognition that what they were trying doesn't work. But I also think, the quarterback issues are difficult. I mean, you have to factor those into the equation. And then when you go back 2 years ago, their running back, Braylon Allen, who is now with the Jets, he was injured for about 2 or 3 games too. And so the injury factor is you have to include that in the equation. But I do think, despite some of the injuries, that people are, they're tired of waiting. They're tired of excuses. They want to, they want to get back to a bowl game. They want to get some, start having some meaningful wins again. It's been almost 4 years since Wisconsin beat a ranked team. So, yes, people are, starting to get a little impatient.
Understandable. Final question, when you look at just how this matchup could go, what is, in your opinion, Wisconsin's path to victory or competitiveness in this game?
Well, good. I just wrote a story about this one, so this one's fresh. Well,
beautiful. You should be dialed in on that one. Then that's a layup.
yeah. So, I do think some obvious things. They got to get off to a fast start, I would just say a solid start. You can't lose the game in the first quarter. And Wisconsin, their start so far have been lukewarm. I do think, one thing I also mentioned is that they have to be able to respond when Alabama makes, their move. Because Alabama, they're going to make some big plays. They're going to score. And what happened last year, if you look back at last year's game, it really turned in about a 3.5 minute stretch between the end of the first half and the start of the second half, where Wisconsin misses a field goal that would have made it 14-6, and Alabama comes back and scores a touchdown in 17 seconds. So instead of 14-6, it's 21-3, and then they come out and get to the opening second half possession and scoring 5 plays, and all of a sudden, what was a 14-3 game late in the first half is all of a sudden 28-3 early in the second, and pretty much the game's over. So they've got to handle those situations where if Alabama gets a big play, or when Alabama gets a big play or a big score, they got to really settle in and dig in and not let it get worse. We talked about Danny O'Neal. He is somewhat mobile. And I know the Florida State quarterback gave them some trouble with his mobility, and I think that could be something that Wisconsin uses as well. And then I think the other key is Wisconsin's been really good on third down, and that's got to continue. The Wisconsin defense has been good on third down, and when they get Alabama in those third down situations, they got to get off the field. The best way to keep Alabama and Ryan Williams and all that talent off the scoreboard is to keep them on the sideline. So, I think if they do those things, they'll have a chance and maybe get to the fourth quarter, and then we'll see what happens.
I know I said that was the last one. Let me ask you one more, just quickly, bigger picture. Big Ten versus SEC. I mean, I think it's one that's a rivalry that doesn't exist that much, but when you get these opportunities, what is the perception from the northern states where you live in Milwaukee? What is the perception of the SEC relative to where the Big Ten is at right now? Just more bigger picture as opposed to just a Wisconsin-centric question.
Well, I think, and this is probably more before the NIL era, but I think when you looked at the SEC, it was kind of like, with all due respect, kind of like the Wild West. Like, you're like, there's this perception that, it's over the top. I don't know if over the top is the best word, but that it's just super intense and maybe not the best way. I don't think people in Big Ten country look at the SEC and are like, wow, we want to be like the SEC. I think they're happy with how things are in the Big Ten, and I think there's I think if you talk to an average Big Ten fan, they might think, there's a little superiority to the SEC in terms of just how they feel schools in their league operate. And these days, I guess the last 2 years, the Big Ten's got bragging rights with the national championship. So, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tough question now because everything is kind of blurred with the NIL era, and I think things are starting to kind of even out where everyone has budgets and everyone, can, recruit guys and get guys in and, have good financial packages and stuff like that. But I do think there's a respect for the SEC up here. I just don't think there's a desire to be the SEC. Like, I think, you might get some conferences. I don't know how they feel in the ACC, but, there might be a little more like, wow, it'd be great to be like the SEC. I think the Big Ten fans are pretty happy with what they got and where they are.
Understandable. Appreciate the time, my friend. Thanks so much. Have a safe trip down and enjoy your time here down south.
All right. Hey, thank you. Take care.
All right, wonderful. Mark Stewart joining us here at McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Always great to visit with somebody that covers the team that we'll see up close and personal. This weekend, he, of course, covers Wisconsin for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. All right, when we come back, we'll start to bounce around, give you a couple other games, a couple other picks to keep an eye on here as we head into what should be a pivotal week 3 for so many teams. We'll do it next on Mac and Cube. Welcome back, McElroy, Cubelic, the Morning Jacks 94.5. Looking at some of the slate, there's a few games that are kind of under the radar this week that I do want to hit quickly. We talked earlier in the show about Pitt, West Virginia. Talked earlier in the show about Clemson, Georgia Tech. There's a few other games that I think might be of some interest to you if you want to make a play or two, potentially, because I do think there's some opportunities on the board. I also think there's an opportunity to get in to see a dentist today at Family Care Dental. They can see you on Fridays and Saturdays. We know scheduling's hard. We know it's difficult, especially with school and challenging schedules, emergency care, whether it's routine dental appointments. You got to get in. You got a problem. You go in today. That's the beauty of Family Care Dental is same-day appointments are available. They can see you on the weekends. They can get you in. They can get you taken care of. That's a great, great luxury to know that, especially now with our world, schedules are tough. So you can see them too. They also have several locations to make it easy on you in Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, Alabaster, and Trussville. They can get you in the same day. They can get you taken care of. And I think you'll be pleased with the experience that you have. So call them today at 874-9605. That's Family Care Dental, 874-9605. All right. We've hit Notre Dame A&M. We've hit Vandy, South Carolina. We've hit Florida, LSU. We've hit Arkansas, Ole Miss. We've hit all those. We've hit South Florida, Miami. But I'll tell you a couple games that are intriguing to me. One, the backyard brawl is really interesting. If you're trying to make a little scratch, I just don't know. West Virginia lost their top running back and their top wide receiver in just the span of a couple plays last week. And as a result, they scored 10 points in the process against Ohio. Like, their running back, Jaheim White, is a bona fide dude. He is a handful. So him being out is really significant. And I think it's going to be interesting to see this Pitt team, who I like. I like Pitt a lot. I think Pitt's solid. I like their running back, Desmond Reed. Eli Holstein, former Bama transfer. He's actually off to a nice start in his career. You got Nico Marchiol, who's a good, solid player for West Virginia at quarterback, but not really like a break it open with his legs type of guy, kind of more of a drop back passer. And I don't know their personnel. I think Pitt wins this thing going away. Teams at home in the backyard brawl have won 4 straight. I don't think that happens in this one. It's in Morgantown, but it's going to be far too difficult, I think, for them to manufacture enough offense to pull off the upset. I like Pitt. I like Pitt big. One of the more intriguing games of the weekend, Oklahoma at Temple. Not intriguing for those reasons. Like, this game should be sideways. But why is Oklahoma going to Temple? That's, I think, a big question. They get a big win now. They're going to Philly? What the heck happened there? The big thing here for Oklahoma, like, I love what they had last week. Did they come out and did they play with their food? Like, that was an emotional win. That was a good win. It probably could have been worse than it was. And yet, now everybody's telling them how great they are. And yet, now you got to go on the road to a 2-0 Temple team that quietly has been okay these last couple weeks. They got a good running back in Ducker that's gone for over 200 this year. I think Oklahoma will stop him, but does that leave them susceptible to a couple plays over the top? I don't know. I think Oklahoma wins this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little dicey early. Louisiana and Missouri. Missouri's a heavy 4-touchdown favorite in this game. Game gets moved up because of extreme heat. Haven't seen that before, but probably not the first time it's happened. That's something worth watching there. Another game that's intriguing, that for all the right reasons. Just some of these games are so amazing. I love Colorado-Houston tonight. Houston, a 4.5-point favorite. Houston is vastly improved. And if you look at Willie Fritz's tenure and track record, he has made huge jumps at every one of his stops in year 2. Now Colorado going in with a quarterback that lit it up last week. Now all of a sudden they decide to go with him as opposed to Caden Salter and Juju Lewis, everybody talking about those guys. Now they're going with number 3. And maybe he can potentially go on the road and get it done. I don't think that happens. I think Houston wins big tonight against Colorado. That game's 6 o'clock, 6:30 Eastern time, or 6:30 Central time on ESPN. The Nico Show, for you Tennessee fans that are listening, he'll take on New Mexico on the Big Ten Network tonight. 9 o'clock Central time if you want to stay up late. Can UCLA get their first win of the season after an 0-2 start? Oregon, number 4, is on the road at Northwestern. They're up 4 touchdowns in Vegas already. Oregon's looked like a well-oiled machine in the first 2 weeks of the season. Northwestern, not so much. I think Northwestern will struggle to score in that game. Total's sitting at 48.5. I don't know how Northwestern gets to 10 points. I really don't. I think it's going to be a hard one for Northwestern to keep pace. This Oregon team is a juggernaut so far. You look at a few others that are of intrigue. There's a few games. Samford, by the way, at Baylor this weekend. Samford 0-2. The get-right recipe is not Sawyer Robertson, who's thrown for nearly 860 this year in 2 games. One of the best players in the sport. So if you're a Samford fan, man, buckle up. Going to be tough sledding against one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football. Haven't talked a ton about Auburn this week. They play South Alabama. South Alabama coming in 1-1. I think South Alabama is a good outfit. I think that's a good football team. They lost by 2 to Tulane last week. That is nothing to be ashamed of. Tulane's a good football team. I think South Alabama will have a couple things that will be very helpful for Auburn this week. If you're looking ahead and you're Auburn, you're thinking about, man, that road trip to Oklahoma next week, man, this is going to be good. Baby, this is rock and roll season. You better be ready. I think Auburn wins the game comfortably, but do not mess around with South. South has some players. South has some dudes. Their running back, Bullock, is a good player. Their Davenport at quarterback's got some juice as well. This is not one to mess around with. Auburn needs to come out, play well, and dictate the terms of engagement very, very quickly. The most pathetic schedule in college football through 3 games is Penn State. They have Villanova this weekend. That game's at 2:30 Central on FS1. Penn State's played nobody, and it's brutal. I mean, it's just like, come on, man. Like, give me something. Give me something. High-flying attack of USC takes on Purdue this week. I think USC is the real deal, guys. So if you're looking for something to do at 2:30 post-Bama game, take a peek at that one. USC is a lot of fun to watch. That game will be on CBS. I think they got some real firepower and some legitimate juice in the 2:30 window that's really, really good. Everyone's going to be watching Georgia, Tennessee. We know that. But if you're looking for something on a secondary television, take a peek at the Trojans. They're the real deal. Really think that team's got some serious firepower and could be problematic. And you have a jam-packed nighttime window full of a ton of games that are interesting. Vandy at South Carolina, Florida at LSU, and Texas A&M at Notre Dame should be fantastic. We're going to come back, give you our Super Sofa game of the weekend, put a bow on the show next on Mac and Cube. All right, TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Game of the Weekend, one of our favorite segments. Guys, tell us about TD's.
Absolutely, Greg. And as we know, we will pick one game. If you only had one game to watch, what one game would it be? And by the way, you can find your Super Sofa furniture for the entire home at TD's Fine Furniture. The store is the size of 2 football fields, so there's plenty to choose from at TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton. Greg, which game you pick?
I'm taking my game. I love this matchup. Florida in a bounce-back situation. LSU on the road in Baton Rouge. Hostile environment in Death Valley at 6:30 Central Time on ABC.
I'm going 30 minutes right before you, Greg. My Ole Miss Rebels taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks at 6 p.m. on ESPN. It's time for Lane Kiffin to get this show on the road. Give me Ole Miss and Arkansas. 6 p.m. on ESPN is my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Game of the Weekend.
Whew, you guys are just going to let me have Clemson, Georgia Tech right there? Okay.
Wow, that's the one you're taking? I thought you'd go Georgia, Tennessee.
No. I mean, if I know which way that one's going. Georgia's going to knock the stew out of them. I don't need to watch that one. I need to see if Clemson or Georgia Tech can win. If Georgia Tech is actually going to be a player in the ACC, I want to see that. If Clemson's actually going to right the ship and show people that they're actually for real, I want to watch that. 11 o'clock ABC, straight out of game day, Clemson, Georgia Tech.
Love it. I'm great with that. It's going to be a good game. I think it's a big opportunity for Clemson to bounce back, man. And a huge opportunity for Georgia Tech to say, hey, man, we're here. We're a player in the ACC this year, and we have legitimate college football playoff hopes. They're 2-0. Big thing is, can Haynes King play? And if he can, is he at 100%? Keep an eye on that one. Georgia, Tennessee should be awesome. Hopefully Rocky Top will be rocking. I think they're doing Checker Neyland, which full send. They're in Neyland at 2:30 Central Times. Enjoy the game this weekend, guys. Enjoy it. We'll be back on Monday. Break it down. 3-man front.